first day. So he's been very kind. The meeting. Welcome back to the meeting. Nothing to report out of closed. And with that, we'll move to item number 4, the adoption of the agenda. Have a motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, reports A3, the draft water, solid waste and sewer budgets. We haven't seen those. We can move to strike that until we have something to look at.
Sure, I can produce it next time.
Okay, so we can
I
strike
have
that.
them, but I can, you want time to look at them?
Yes, please.
Sorry, what
I
item is
think
that?
we were going to receive them though, weren't we?
We didn't get any. We haven't got any.
So which item is that?
10.3. 10A3.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's the draft plan. I would very much like to receive those, but we'll wait on that then.
There's nothing to receive, Michael. They're not in the package.
All right, let's strike it.
I was going to present them, so that's me. I didn't put them in the agenda.
Okay, would you like Mr. Miller to present those verbally?
Or I can give it to you next time.
No, I'd like to see them. I think, you know, budgets, we
Okay.
need to look at numbers.
All right,
I like-
let's strike it. Okay, any other items?
Give me a second. D3 Lionsway Beach Park. I think we can strike that. I don't think there's nothing, we haven't got anything prepared, and I think we have a delegation that's going to talk for us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect.
And the stuff under 14, so the volunteer appreciation, we think there is an RFD on that, but stuck at the end of the agenda after correspondence for some reason, but it is there. So I hope people found it. It's on page 223.
So it's a request for decisions there.
Yes, it's there. It's in the package. It just got for some reason it was after all the correspondence. I hope people have seen it. And then B, I guess B, C, and D, or establish a parking committee. I think we can answer that. We know what we're doing. It was one of the things on the agenda. But B and D, I'm not too sure. Is someone bringing a recommendation from the committee, or what exactly? Because there's nothing in the package on those two.
Good question. Any idea?
I can answer that.
Yeah,
At the finance committee, it was brought up. Bruce is on the finance committee. He's an insurance expert. And the question was, Bruce, have you ever looked at the insurance policy? You're the insurance expert. And he said, no. So well, maybe it's a good idea just for you to take a look at it.
Okay, so what are we in the meeting tonight? What did we?
And somebody asked the question, let's bring that up at the council.
Okay,
It was that simple.
so the meeting tonight is a question of should we? So these are requests from the finance committee. That's what you said.
Yes.
I think
It's good. I don't know if there's a request from the finance
Suggestion,
committee.
I think.
It was a suggestion, yes.
Okay, all right, whatever. Okay, well,
Wonder if
I guess we can deal with those when we get to it.
And
There's nothing here. There's no decision tonight. There's nothing we've been given. Okay.
and D, did you have something on that? 14D?
No, that was just an overall discussion. Same meeting talking about, should we be looking at the parking? Not sure that's an issue for tonight.
So we'll strike that?
You can strike that. Well, I think if we agree to
I
establish.
think the suggestion was for a report to be put together.
Yeah,
on cost analysis.
Yeah, we have to do it. We have to do a cost benefit analysis. The costs of the parking fines versus what it costs us to administer it.
So you don't need council's resolution from council.
No,
You
we
can do that on
still
your
have to
own.
do an analysis.
Yeah.
We have to do that.
Okay, so we'll strike that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
okay.
that's what I had.
Anything else?
No, that's what I had.
Michael, anything from you?
I'm sorry, have we left B on there for a resolution or a recommendation, or is that gone? B.
Oh,
Insurance policy.
Stays on, yeah.
It stays on? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Michael, anything else?
I don't think so.
Councilor Ryder?
Covered by the agenda, yeah.
Yeah. Under 10A. under 10B, there's nothing written included, so I presume there is nothing?
No report.
Okay,
No, there's a whole pack, there's all packages, there's all the packages.
10B. Under mayor, there's nothing included in the package,
Sorry,
so there's nothing, is
I
there?
don't have my glasses on.
Okay. And just a question, I don't see Nye here. Why is he not present?
I didn't feel it was necessary today. He asked me if he needed to come. I said, if we need you, I'll find out. And there was nothing being discussed and needed to go through him.
I think we've had some discussion that would be helpful to have him.
There's been a lot of discussion on it, but staff, we're using our staff members' nights.
Well, I'll say again, I think some residents have pointed out, and I pointed out that I'd like to see Nye present. He would, he's got a lot of knowledge and information and would be very helpful to have him here.
I think if you want nine, I don't disagree.
Mhm.
If you have a specific question for him, I'll give him the question. He can do some research and he can get back to us.
I'd like to see him at the meetings, is what I'm saying.
So his job.
Yeah,
Well, we discussed this in the last meeting. And there was a request that, first of all, we confirm our staff are compensated to come to the meetings.
What's that?
We first confirm how staff are compensated for coming to the
It's
meetings.
not just about compensation, it's about using up their nights.
Okay, so, yeah, I said we did discuss it last meeting when you weren't here. And that's where it got left.
So the council wants staff at these meetings? Is there a resolution on that?
No,
No.
I don't think there is. And do you want to add to this to the agenda? Discussion on that? Is that what you want to add?
I'm saying I think it's in here and you probably come on matters arising from the last meeting. I
Yeah.
think it's in here somewhere.
Okay.
We'll find it, we'll find it and we'll get to it.
Well, we address it.
Okay. Let's address it at that time.
Okay. Anything else,
Pardon me.
Councilor Ryder?
one other thing here. Actually, no, I'm fine for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll go right to the public participation, and why don't we open it up to the gallery first, and then we can go online following that.
We have three.
Yeah.
Three there.
Good evening.
All right.
My question concerns a letter which I wrote to the mayor and council recently. Shawna responded when I sent it in and said that she would put it in the package for the next council meeting. But when I went through the correspondence yesterday, my name was there as having written a letter, but the letter wasn't there. I would like to know who removed it and why.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
That particular letter was removed, I guess under my direction. It's been referred to our legal counsel for defamatory comments.
What do you mean by defamatory comments?
I'll just leave it at that. That's why it's being referred to our legal counsel.
Well, I disagree that there were defamatory comments in there.
We'll see what our lawyers say.
I think that the letter was removed because you know that I have problems with the present council. There was another letter there that was quite defamatory to these two councillors sitting here. Why wasn't that passed on?
When something goes to legal counsel, we won't comment on it.
You see, I think that you're under a misapprehension because I used a metaphor in that letter. And there was nothing defamatory in my estimation. But anyway, I have to go with what you're saying. One of the things that I saw written in another letter, which I thought was quite disrespectful to two members of this council, was that the meeting had been upsetting to them because two of the councils were argumentative and combative. Well, is that fair?
I'm not sure the question, if it's directed at me.
I think your question was answered, that it's been referred to legal counsel. there's nothing further that we can really add to that, Rose.
Okay,
Well, I can say that it appears to be a selective culling of correspondence here. I mean, there have been comments made about regarding that have come my way, and I'm perfectly fine for those to be included. And I think that if people here can't take a little heat, then they shouldn't be in this kitchen. I didn't see anything defamatory in there. And I think it's a pretty selective decision to have called that letter. I mean, censoring public comment, I find that appalling.
Too bad. That's why it's called.
It is too bad.
That's why it's defamatory across the line.
Well, that's your opinion, Ron. I
That's why it
don't
goes
see
to
it
legal
that way.
counsel.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you your opinion. I saw it and said, this has.
Well,
to
you
go to
gave me
legal
your
counsel.
opinion and I disagree with it. That's all I'm
And
saying.
now we wait for a legal opinion.
Sure. And it seems to me to be a selective culling.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Any other questions from the gallery?
Yeah, that
Yes,
very subject.
yes.
I didn't even know what's going on. I'm new to this thing. The first thing I'd like to know, it's gone to legal counsel on something that's probably legitimate. Did everybody in this council approve of that being called?
No.
Did
No,
everybody approve that?
It's
Taken out.
Tony, it's the CIA decision, CIO decision, no one else has asked.
This is a democracy. You don't just delete stuff.
It's not being deleted. It will come forward. Just how it comes forward.
Did everybody agree to that?
No.
No, we didn't.
No, I
So
specifically
it's
asked,
being taken out without everybody agreeing to it. Why?
yeah, and I specifically asked that it be included and put back in the agenda, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Can I please get your name, sir?
My name is Tony Strong. I'm used to councils, okay? I'm usually a plumbing and inspector for the city of Vancouver. I've got tickets coming out of my ears for inspection, so I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, get quick, haven't I? Okay, my name's Tony Greville. I'm a past member of the Infrastructure Committee. And I've got my confreres who are the other non-elected members of the Infrastructure Committee. And we've spoken to 3 out of the 4 previously elected members of the Infrastructure Committee. And we want to say before we get started, our intentions here are good. Our intentions are genuine. We want the proposed Infrastructure Committee to be functioning, active, and of significant benefit to the village. We have reviewed keenly, after even cajoling members of council, mayor and members of council, the terms of reference. And we've, yeah,
was it in the back way? I think.
No, come in.
Sure, I'm so sorry.
Slip on by.
we feel the terms of reference as published fall short and will not allow for constructive discussion and action. And I'm going to talk about the structure that's being proposed. Brian is going to talk about, I think he called it purpose and mandate, and then Carl's going to follow up at the end. We are unified in our position. The structure as it was laid out was there's going to be 3 council or 3 elected members, Mayor Mike Broughton and Neville Abbott, and less than 3 or 3 or less civilians or citizens, non-elected members. That won't work. That won't work. That's what we had before. We had 4 and 4, then unfortunately one of the guys passed away, Jim. So we ended up with 4 council members, 3 non-elected, the CAO, and the public works manager on most occasions. Essentially became a glorified non-functioning council meeting. It was a total waste of time. The thing was non-functional, it died. Part of the reason it died was we couldn't do anything. We saw a situation here a couple of weeks ago where I think Neville and Marcus had spoken to somebody, you can't have 3 people, they've been to the CAO and blah, blah, blah. That's what was happening. We couldn't talk to each other. Brian, Carl and I couldn't be on the beach. And and say, hey, I've got a great idea. Chat, work it out, bring it to the meeting. That wasn't allowed. Not allowed, waste of time. We had other members of the community. The guy lives 2 doors down from me, who's in fiber optics and communications whiz. We had significant issues with communications at the village at the time. Wasn't allowed to attend any meetings. He just disappeared. You know, and then we had the fact that with a couple of exceptions, Neville and Norm, obviously, the council administration had zero engineering or technical expertise. And there was some people in that group that had zero technical expertise that were determining the agenda and running the show. You know, and you had council members with no technical expertise having more numbers than you had technical people, and the whole thing just fizzled. It was a complete and utter waste of time. Everybody got frustrated, and eventually the mayor did the right thing. He pulled the plug. And the object of the exercise was pull the plug, come back later on, maybe in a different format where we had fewer council members. We had council members who had technical expertise who could actually contribute. And we had a far greater number of technical expertise from the village who could contribute. And, I'll say myself, I am very knowledgeable on water, wastewater, process, stuff like that. I can't do electricity to save my life. So there would be some things I was good at, some things I would step back from. Well, the way the thing was structured, that couldn't be. And we couldn't I couldn't step back from bridge repair or putting in new generators and have somebody come in who had some expertise in that area. Couldn't happen. So the structure that is set up, and I know there's some community charter things, but I also know that most people sitting around this table agree that the structure is wrong and could be improved. You just got to talk to each other.
Tony, thanks for those comments, and we appreciate the feedback. And
Brian's going to come.
Brian, if you'd like to speak as well.
My name is Brian Ulrich. I was also one of the members of the past infrastructure committee. I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked in aerospace and robotics for years. And one of the things that, I'm going to talk about not so much the structure, but Tony just mentioned the purpose and mandate is specifically mentioned in the proposed terms of reference. And most of this looks like it's backward facing rather than forward facing. Like when we were doing the infrastructure committee work 6 years ago, 8 years ago, when it was functional and it really worked well, we were focusing on the future, on a 1 year, 2 year, 10-year horizon for the stuff that's in the village, the infrastructure, roads, water, and all that stuff. A lot of the stuff that's in here is maintenance, which isn't really what an infrastructure committee would do. Like we have a public works group that is responsible for maintenance. And so we're not here to guide an eye on or oversee what he's doing. We can review some of the stuff that he comes up with, like specifically to develop and recommend maintenance standards. So that's not really what an infrastructure committee would do. That's not forward looking so much from a strategic standpoint as it is from more, call it a tactical standpoint. We'll be happy to review any of the maintenance standards and procedures that NI comes up with, or Public Works comes up with, but to actually develop them, that would be what we would be looking at for doing. Stuff like the infrastructure that's owned by TELUS or any of the utilities, it actually isn't ours, but it happens to be on our property. Again, I'm not sure if that falls under our mandate as well, because it's not on our stuff. I can look at some of that stuff and whether or not it's in danger or not. To prepare and develop infrastructure maintenance and development plans and review that. I mean, that's kind of a redundant thing from what's set up in 3.3. We don't do maintenance. We look forward. So the big value of what we provided years ago was developing the infrastructure master plan that had different horizons for the things that needed to be done. So when those horizons came up, whether it was a 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year horizon, when those things came up, we were ready for them. And we had council aware of them, hopefully putting funding in place to do that. So the bottom line is we need to be more forward-looking than what's in the terms of reference here. A strategic viewpoint.
Okay, and of course, those terms of reference are draft and they're meant to be discussed when the committee gets together. Maybe I can ask you a question. Why do you think, what led to the, I guess, I don't want to be so strong as say failure of the infrastructure committee, but the disbandment of it over the last 4 or 5 years? Because we certainly don't want to encounter that again, and we want to be as productive as possible. So I value your feedback here and look forward to that meeting when the committee gets together and reviews this terms of reference in detail. But
why did it fail? There's probably a number of reasons. I sensed in the latter years, there seemed to be a little bit more involvement of public works and council in the meetings, and I almost sensed that NI or the public works was feeling that we were overstepping into their mandate, and that's certainly what we're not here to do. We don't want to do that. I think to the point where we were excluded from being able to review things that came in. There were some projects that we had the chance to review them at the drawing stage. We probably could have avoided some problems. There was one where we actually did review at the drawing stage, said it wasn't going to work, but it moved forward anyways, and it didn't work. Just like you said, in fact, it failed sooner than we thought it would. So, that's where the committee adds value. We don't have that chance to review stuff looking forward. Then we're gonna rely on probably maybe a group of people that aren't necessarily experts in every area. If we have a committee that's structured with 1 or 2 people from council, the chairman and maybe 1 other councillor, and again, Tony mentioned that there's probably all kinds of charters and things that dictate the structure of it, but you guys make the rules, you can change it.
sure.
A committee that has 2 councillors and maybe a core group of people of 3 or 4 that are always there, and then a larger group to draw on as the projects come up. So if it's an electrical project, we can draw in people with electrical experience or chemical experience or water experience or structural experience. Data experience, that kind of stuff. But I think that is where you're going to be able to use the brain power, horsepower that's in this village that I'm sure is willing to help if it's in a forum that's productive and constructive and not a waste of time. People come away from these meetings feeling, why did we waste our time? And then you're not going to get people to come in.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you, Brian. And that is the intention is standing committee can have, if it has 3 councillors, it has 3 residents, but we can have advisors as well. And I think a really good example of a committee that's effectively utilizing advisors or working group is the beach park. And they've had as many as 18 additional participants and been very effective.
And
So
you don't want 18 people there all the time, because that's up.
No, of course not,
You need
but-
the people that should be there for the topic
sure.
of the day or
Yeah, but the infrastructure committee and the grants committee are 2 that we're getting lots of inbound interest and so that's positive. The more, there's some tremendously talented people such as yourself and Tony and Carl and others that want to roll up their sleeves. So thank you very much for your past involvement and looking forward to you.
Can I
Involved again.
pass a comment? Let's pass a comment on that. Cole's gonna- I'll do it after you spoke.
Okay, fine, thanks.
I might have to adjust the comment.
I'll try to keep it succinct. So during the campaign, I think we all heard, I believe it was almost every candidate spoke to the need to have infrastructure strategic oversight. We don't have a city engineer, but we have many engineers in the city who are more than willing to volunteer their time and expertise. I don't think anybody on the infrastructure committee will want to be writing procedure manuals or how to inspect our fancy new generator. Just saw it for the first time. But in terms of engineering oversight, so we have Tony Grevel,
past president of the Canadian Water Association. We have a mechanical engineer, I'm a chemical engineer. We need a civil, we need electrical, we need a communications, electronics type person to talk through SCADA. You know, we've got all this new infrastructure that apparently has SCADA ready to go, but it's not on. I don't think this council would dispute that we need an infrastructure committee. The infrastructure committee of the past, which started about 2012, I was one of the founding members. Scott Ando was the chair, Brian and Tony were on it. We had several more members of the public. We did some good stuff. We did the outdoor water use bylaw. We tweaked the rock screen, or we tried to rock screen intake at the mag intake, which Brian told us didn't work. We specified the need for swash plates in the Harvey Reservoir. Things like, you know, specific things that came out of years and years of experience. I don't think anybody around the table would dispute that we could use an infrastructure committee. My concern is, will we get one? Not only do we have 3 willing victims here simply because we've been doing it for a while, we need more. Who will step up under current circumstances? I don't know. Which civil engineer who's had a hard day at work wants to come and be told that their time is not valuable and their opinion is not needed? So I'm not going to ask directly, but I'm going to ask you all to consider quite carefully what it is that you're trying to accomplish strategically. Recognize that this is an apolitical body, an infrastructure committee. We used to have people come for their evening's entertainment because the debate around the table, you started talking about, you know, fruit numbers and turbulent boundary layer. That stuff gets really exciting for a certain kind of person.
Meeting of one.
Let's talk about it, but that's not something for as a general consumption. But we had a lot of interest from the public just to come in here, techies talk tech stuff. We were apolitical. We cared when the wrong decision was made, but we did our level best to make sure the right decision was made. I'm asking you, I'm exhorting you to raise yourself above the current fray, recognize what's needed for Lions Bay to get this $1 million grant that we're about to do something with. That's supposed to be directed towards infrastructure. So maybe get some ideas put forward, long-term strategic ideas for that. Plus, I've sent it to members of council. There's a list of about 20 infrastructure issues facing the village that need addressing. Some of them are now in process. A lot of them are not in plan. And we need an infrastructure committee. I ask you to put one together.
All right, thank you very much, Carl. And
Yeah, so just
sorry,
a couple of quick comments. I think describing the committee as failed is probably doesn't do them service. With Justice, as Carl said, started in 2012. There's various people through it. They did a lot of good stuff. It did get a little off the rails towards the end of the last term, but it wasn't for the last 5 or 6 years. We're talking, you know, like a year or so, a year and a half. And when it was decided there wasn't any major projects happening and we just weren't making progress, it was closed down or put in a hiatus, should I say, until this council decided how to revive it. The Beach Park Committee is a select committee, not a standing committee. I think that's one of the reasons that makes it work. I think what that using the terms, what Tony and Brian were certainly alluding to was a select committee where you can have a lot more residents than councillors. And I personally think that's the way we need to go, in my honest opinion.
okay.
So, and on that, one last note, Rose, I was scrambling to find your last email. I didn't know what it was earlier it was about. In my opinion, it looked like fair comment. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,
Can I ask a question? Carl and Tony, were you essentially suggesting that this might move ahead better as a select committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
okay, fair enough. As it's been announced, it's a standing committee because the mayor feels that this is important and it's something that I'm passionate about. So, but thank you very much for your comments. Do we have any other comments in the gallery? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm probably a little remiss bringing up such a petty thing after listening such a powerful message from the three learned gentlemen in the back row. It has to do with dogs. And it's not. It has to do with Arlene Holmes. Thank you. One thing I say is, I don't know another community who is so lucky to have so many stations with garbage containers. My daughter in North Van says they're in a few parks, but for dogs, we are so lucky that on every block, we have an ability to pick up a bag, to pick up the mess our dog leaves behind. What I'd like to say is we pay a fairly hefty amount for licensing, which I don't object to at all, and have appreciated those wonderful green biodegradable bags for the many years that they've been. And I don't know if this is a genre that I should address to you, but I don't know where else to take it. The new bags are paper thin. They do not tear at the serrated edge. They tear halfway down. A lovely lady who's not as easy about sticking her hand through a bag into a dog mess as I am. I felt very sorry for her, but they tear off. They fall apart. They're paper thin. The green bags were wonderful. Now, I know it's probably a cost measure to have put in these brown things, but it's also a waste because when you pull them off, half of them rip. So they're thrown in the garbage. The green ones were so wonderful that I hate to say on occasion when I didn't have a bag for my husband's lunch, I used one. They were so lovely. And I would never, it would be abhorrent to use one of these brown bags for anything. And a lot of ladies have lovely long foamy fingernails, which I do not have. And once they put their hand in, it's going to go right through the bag into a lovely mess. So I'm just wondering if it's possible, and it's not too cost negative, if we could return to the lovely green bags.
You want your lunch bags back?
Yes.
Yeah.
More lunch bags.
I like that idea. I know it's I've noticed the thin bags.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
It might, this would be a moment, I guess, where it would again be helpful to have Nye present, where you might be able to comment on what happened there with the bags. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Or I can simply ask him.
Or we could get an answer now. Yeah.
Okay, is there any other questions from the gallery?
4.5 hours to.
Can we,
Yeah, Norma Rogers.
okay,
Oh, asked to unmute. Go ahead, Norma.
Norma, if you're on, please unmute.
Disappeared.
Okay, maybe we can go to the next, then we can come back to Norma.
Oh, there she is. She's there.
There we go. That's Rebecca.
Okay, well, let's go to Rebecca and maybe Norma will come back on.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so my question is related to the recent CAO job posting. The link for that was provided in the March 17th Village Update. While a job posting for the Lions Bay CFO indicates required education, a degree, and CPA designation, and 5 years minimum senior management experience and local financial management experience, the CAO posting asks for no minimum years of experience, no municipal experience, and no education, only key responsibilities and qualities. The qualities mentioned are, as CAO, you are an experienced leader, ability to implement the legislative requirements of the local act, community charter, and negotiate both union and non-union contracts on behalf of the municipality. Complex decision-making is essential. Previous experience in an executive leadership role with a proven track record is considered an asset, not even a requirement, just an asset. Compare this to a job posting for the CAO in Greenwood, Canada's smallest city, by the way, with a population of 727, where the CAO needs at least 5 years of progressive experience working at a senior management level in local government, strong academic credentials, demonstrated knowledge of local government legislation, grant writing, financial and asset management, a degree in public or business administration, local government, financial management experience. In addition, the previous job description for the CAO position in Lions Bay also included an undergraduate degree with a major in business law, planning, or public administration, plus several years of progressively responsible municipal experience, or an equivalent combination of education, training, and experience, plus another 9 experience factors, including understanding community charter, local government act, tendering, administering contracts, and HR management. Further, the 2015 posting for when the previous CAO was hired also asked for post-secondary education in relevant fields such as public administration, business administration, commerce, or law, 3 to 5 years experience at a senior management level in a local government environment, strong team leadership, analytical and organizational skills, plus another 8 experience factors.
Okay.
So I'm almost finished. Why is this concerning?
Right.
As we know, the mayor and most council members have minimal experience within their current roles, and the village has lost a number of experienced employees. Given the list of responsibilities for the position, to open a CAO job to someone who has no municipal experience and does not have the required education could negatively impact the village even further. We need an experienced CAO. So my questions are, who created the CAO job posting? And why does it not list any minimum education or municipal qualifications or any years of experience?
Okay, that's a good question. And
I can answer.
Mr. Miller?
So I created that posting. We have roughly 30 applications with all of the required or skill sets that Norma's talking about. Rebecca. So you can put as much into a posting as you want and go on and on, but we're gonna get the same applications. So we have probably at least 20 with government or senior managerial experience, one or the other.
And education.
That's a given, right?
Well, not
Yes,
necessarily.
yes, if anybody has some
It's
sort
not
of
a given.
designation, well, they do. Almost every one of them. Nobody's going to apply for a CAO job. Well, there's a few without some sort of an education. So there's so much of it in there.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. Thanks for
It's good comments, but all of the applications have extensive experience, management experience, and education.
Okay.
Thanks, Rebecca. All right, Karen, can we move to the next, please?
Yeah, so Doug?
Doug, if you'll unmute.
Doug or Gail?
No. Doug, you're up. We can't hear you, Doug.
Okay, maybe we'll move on to
Why don't we
Carmen.
move
To
to
Carmen Leeson.
Carmen?
Carmen, and we can come back to you, Doug.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you first. This is in regards to the garbage and recycling bylaw. And after the third reading, I want to first say thank you to the Bear Smart Committee for all their hard work and the education that they provided to the community. And I just wanted to say that I look forward to the adoption of the garbage and recycling bylaw, because as we know, last year, the number of bears in our community, and I love the bears, and we had many of them, believe it or not, even on our doorstep in our carport, not looking for food, but just visiting. And I can tell you that I love that ability to have nature at my doorstep. However, we do need to, in my opinion, adopt this bylaw so that the staff do have the ability to enforce the necessary actions so that we can live harmoniously with the bears. So I just wanted to, again, support the adoption of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay, next.
Let's try Norma again.
Norma, if you'll unmute. We can't hear you, Norma.
Norma? Do you want to speak into this?
Hey, Norma, can you hear us? Speak if you can.
Okay.
Looked as though you unmuted and you come back on, but we can't hear you, Norma. Okay, perhaps we can get you on later on the program. Anyone else? Karen?
No.
No? Okay, why don't we move right to the public delegation, and that would be item number 6, Lions Bay Beach Park.
Thank you very much for your invitation to just say a few words tonight. I just want to say, I totally feel your pain about being part of a community where your expertise is respected. And I just want to say,
Susan,
yes, we have the fun job. Yes.
can you just introduce yourself? Because I think some in the room don't know your background and
Oh, my name is Susan Davis, and I have a brand strategy and design firm. So I'm helping with the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee with communications and kind of providing the group. But I did want to say,
thank you.
I feel that pain. We are very lucky in our little bubble. And I think you agree, Scott, in our committee, we have had a wonderful experience. And I just want to say, I want to thank Neville and Michael for being as helpful and celebratory of all the expertise that has been allowed on our committee, and we have thrived as a result. I wish we had more time to tell you some of the things that we've been able to achieve. So thank you. I just needed to say that. And I hope you find that opportunity to share your expertise. Anyway, so what I wanted to say, I'm just going to do a short introduction, and I'm going to let my colleague get down to the nitty gritty. Thanks to the assistance of additional volunteers, and you're right, there need to be volunteers that do come and go from committee. So anyway, thanks to the assistance of those volunteers, we've been able to accomplish some of these few things. I won't name them all, but some of the big picture things since the committee was struck in early January. We have completed a detailed grant application review, and we're completely up to speed on what the obligations and commitments are. And we have renewed the connection with our contact at the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and we have a very open and very convenient dialogue with that person. And a couple of things, the province has said they are open to reviewing the scope of our work as applied for and possible modifications. And the reason that's important is because things have changed in the last few years, as we all know. But to be clear, the funds are fixed, notwithstanding the fact that our start was delayed on the project, and notwithstanding the fact that the cost of non-residential construction has hit its highest inflationary percentage, its highest jump since 2006. So we were hoping that we might be able to tease out a little more money in view of that, but as you suspected, Neville, it was a hard no.
You saw my head spin, did you?
Right, hard no, but you can't blame us for trying. And so we have done a preliminary schedule and budget, and that's been established based on the funds in hand and based on the must-haves that we all know, and Scott will speak to that shortly. So we're very committed, obviously, to staying within budget. So we're being very, very careful with those funds. Two consultations have taken place. One with a cross-section of kids from the Lions Bay residents, and you'll hear more about that in the weeks to come. But that was a lot of fun. We look forward to showing some of the pictures of that exercise. And we have, thanks to Trudy, who happens to be here, had a consultation with the seniors as well. And we look forward to sharing the outcome of that and the intel and findings from that. And we plan on sharing all of that with on the website, on the Lions Bay Beach Park website page, which has yet to come to fruition. But Karen and Marina are going to help us with that, have agreed to help us with that. So thank you very much. So that's going to be a nice, robust offering sooner than later, we hope. We also plan, and I hope the councillors don't jump out the window, because this is something that we do plan on discussing, but we didn't have a meeting this week because of spring break. But we would like to plan for a story wall. We're calling it a story wall envisioning session. That is one of the things that I do, are envisioning sessions, to tease out the highlights of what's special about Lions Bay. And there are many, many things, and we all know what they are, but we'd like to express them. We'd like to find a way to communicate that in the beach park. And we're thinking of the chain link fence along the south end of the park, where we are going to, where some of the things we'd like to key in on are the Howe Sound Biosphere region work that has been done by Liz Simons. We'd like to focus on the plants, the bears, the butterflies, the fauna, all of the things that we have. We'd like to do some storytelling around that. And also we'd like to use the tiles that are on the wall in front of the washroom. We'd like to repurpose those and amplify those, because that is such a lovely storytelling vehicle for Lions Bay. We've been there for so long. So that's one of the things that we will discuss and make sure we're all in agreement on. Lastly, we look forward to a town hall meeting in the village at the end of May, where our work began, the working group.
Because it shows up here that I've unmuted.
Someone's trying to sing me off.
Yeah. Sorry, Susan.
No, that's okay. I'm almost done. So yeah, we're going to have call a town hall meeting, we hope, that you all agree. And we would like to, at that time, we'd like to take you on a virtual tour through our proposed plans so that everybody can get a sense of what we think is right. We're lucky enough to have 2 architects on our committee, and an engineer, and we have other, communications people. And so we think we've got and we also have a senior director who's a project manager at Cadillac Fairview, and David. So we think we're pretty well, we will be equipped to share all that information in May. And we hope that you'll all come, and we're going to take it as a celebration of a milestone progress. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass it to Scott to share some preliminary and secondary elements of the park.
Thank you. So my name's Scott Gordon. I'm a new resident here. I've been here about 7 years. I live on Lions Bay Avenue, and I spend a lot of time in the park. So when we had the 18 people, we filtered it down to 4, and we've added 1. We have focused on what we call the big 3, which is the playground, the built form, which is the new washroom building, the repurposing of the existing washroom building, and Lori Krill.
And what's correct?
Lori Beck.
Lori Beck.
I just wanted to make sure you're awake. I'm waiting for that. Okay, so that's the build. That's kind of the built form. We've got the playground, and then there's the water sports storage and the jetty. So we've laid out a critical path schedule to get us to everything done by the end of May 2024. But of those 3 major things and the little bits that go along with it, they're all happening at various sequential times. So one area will be finished, and then another, and then another. And we've done this because some of the stuff has a fairly long procurement time, like the playground equipment, is really a 6-month exercise. Once we decide on the playground equipment, and that's well in hand, that has to be decided by the end of June of this year, and we're on board with that. We then do procurement, delivery, which is really 6 months. So we don't start installing the playground equipment until next April. So, and then that will be finished by the end of May. The built forms, and the largest one is a new washroom building. It doesn't seem like a big building. It's not a big building. It's not complicated, but you have to go through the same process of whether it's 400 square feet or 40,000 square feet. We have a project brief that we're writing now, which will go out to 3 architectural firms by the end of April at the latest. We have 3 firms interested, and I have another 4th in case one of the other ones falls to the wayside. Their design work will happen over the summer. We have to probably go to the Board of Variance because we're probably going to be looking at setback reductions on two sides, but we don't think the Board of Variance will be a problem. We have to get a building permit, which hopefully will not be a problem by that point. And we start building really November, December, and it gets finished in March, April. At the same time that is being built, we have the repurposing of the existing washroom. And that's kind of up in the air what we're going to do there. It's a post and beam structure. It looks really ugly now, but if we strip off all the skin off it, we think the bones have some merit. So we're going to be exploring that with the architectural firm that we choose. The jetty, thank you for the resolution, which you passed last time. Karen and I were talking today, we want to get that resolution on Village of Lions Bay letterhead, which is easy enough to do. We'd like to get Ron to sign it. Then that's going to go with the drawings that I've done for the jetty. And so we take the application form, the photographs Merrick has, Merrick's knowledge, the resolution, the drawings, and then Merrick is going to go to counter BC, to the front of the counter. He's going to work his way around to the back of the counter. Those people, we're going to get it into that system. So we'll have that underway in the next week or so. So that one's going. The water sports storage, which is the kayaks and the paddle boards, that stuff, it's kind of holding off on its design until we can see the layout for where all the playground equipment is. Because the top lot, which is at the top, is now shifting down to the bottom. And there's some civil work we have to do. There was some retaining walls, and we need the arborist to give us some feedback about, sort of the tree roots there, plus up where the new washroom building is going to go. So we need to get that going with the arborist. We have an arborist RFP. I think it's been chosen who we're hiring, so that's underway, I hope. So the design for that water sports storage will be dovetailed with the park equipment layout of the sort of the playground equipment. So we're working on that. Once that gets going, the design, we have actually set up for the decommissioning for what we've got now in all the storage, which will happen through the month of October. So we get this year for people, or this season for people to keep their stuff by the first or the end of October. I think we have to have all that stuff done so we can take it down and build the new one. So we're moving along, we're having fun, and I think we're getting something done, and I think it's going to be a gas when it's finished. So the story wall is going to be terrific. It's going to really, we hope, kind of, the park really defines us, and we want to build on that. We want to build on the fun things of Lions Bay historically, the work that's been done by people in Lions Bay, and then let people know when they come to the park who we are, what we represent, and just to give an overview about who we are. So that's what the storyboard. It's going to have a little roof over it, which actually protect it from the elements. We think it's just going to be fun, and you'll walk in the park and be really happy. So that's the direction we're going in.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate that. And Susan as well. Fabulous. It's an exciting project. We really appreciate all your devotion and pulling the group together. And of course, Neville and Michael.
You guys have been absolutely terrific. It's fun to work with. We have a lot of laughter and bantering. We call each other 7 days a week when we need to. Everybody jumps in. It just feel like we're doing something, and we're having fun. So, and we can always get the best work when we're having fun.
That's fabulous.
Scott, thanks so much to both of you for coming in for all your great work. I remember you spoke at the town hall event about the challenge with the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how have you addressed that? I'm just curious.
Okay, so sort of the background of that is that the original design, which was done under the original plan, called for a roadway going down really from where the washing are right now down to the beach, which is a great difference. I think it's about 25 feet or something. If I had the survey, I could tell you. But it said that that's a handicapped accessible, which would have been a ramp of about 400 feet, which would have carved the grassy knoll into a series of switchbacks with handrails on both sides. And all our $1 million would have gone into that, which drove us crazy. So we've gone back to, and one of the, I think, clever things we did is there's a guy in the village, David Lee, who is awesome. He was the most articulate kid. And he just jumped into this thing, because what we have to do, we made an application for the money. We got the money. And when we got the money, it said what we had to do. So we've gone back to the problem. We kind of circled back and said to these guys, here's the intent of what we wanted to do, and you gave us some money. Now we've had to tweak it a little bit. So we're in the process of kind of rewriting the grant a little bit, very softly to get out of that. So we will have the upper bench wheelchair accessible, like the washrooms will be accessible, the shelter will be accessible, and the hard surface next to it will be accessible. And that's still kind of grading around a little bit, because there's nothing really flat there. It looks flat, but when you get a survey, you think, oh my God. But we're going to, the new washroom building will probably be elevated a little bit, because where we're proposing it, it falls off fairly dramatically. So we're going to have all that accessible. And we think that that will meet the intent of what the original grant application had. I mean, the original grant had things like ping pong tables and a bunch of stuff that we probably will not do, but we'll have the space for it. So I think that's how we're going to get around it. And that's underway quietly and professionally. And that's why, as Susan mentioned, we have this dialogue that we've started with Victoria in a very soft manner, asking advice. It's all those things you do to get what you want without asking the question. So that's kind of, does that answer your question?
Yes, you're working it.
We're working.
Yeah.
Can I make one correction? David Lee, the kid he's talking about, is the senior director project management at Cadillac Fairview. So no kid in short pants.
So you just let us.
But yes, he did.
I did. But
It's all relative.
yeah, I think what we found is that the village, and it's sort of like what Carl was talking about, these two gentlemen were talking about. There's so much expertise in the village, and people are waiting to be asked. And if we can demonstrate that we're having fun, we know what we're doing, and we've got the village's interests at heart, you'll see the front porch go lights go on every street. There's just so many people who want to help. I mean, David Lee just jumped in, and the fellow helping with, sort of the jetty encounter BC. He's just been terrific. America's just taken it and is running with it. So one of the things we are very conscious of, that Susan mentioned it, will be the budget. Every month we go along and the resources get a little tighter. So we are planning a different way of procurement. And some ideas that we're going to be presenting to the councillors next week to see whether we can get some support and some buy-in, involve more local trades in the village. We think we can sort of get some help from people in the village, both from the management and trade aspect. We may get the family discount, which would be helpful. And everything we do, I think we're looking through the lens of we have limited resources. There's been talk about doing the kayak storage with the shelter over top, with the roof over top. That would be ideal. We're not sure we can afford it. So when we do the drawings for that, we're going to have sort of price A with a roof and price B without a roof. If we can afford it, great. If we can't, then it knows that we tried and we looked at it. Because everybody's, all the questions that people have, all the ideas, we want to answer all of them. We want to look at them and say, it was a great idea. We just couldn't afford it. We wanted it, but we've only got such few resources. So that's kind of where we're going.
Thanks, Scott. If I could just touch on that roof for some people that might be wondering why we can't afford a roof. It's a little more complicated than that, as Scott found out. It's a code issue. It becomes a building because of the size, so therefore we have to sprinkle it. It's those kind of issues. So.
Yeah, everything that's asked for, you have to, wouldn't that be great? But then the background I have is, okay, we got to dig a little deeper in because I'm an architect and I hate surprises. Surprises kill my project. So after 40 years of practicing, I've seen most things. I know that usually the questions that have to be asked. And I was speaking to Dave Butler. I got some advice from him and I've been speaking to other people. And so just trying to work those things together. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Until the next meeting.
Yeah,
We have some nice surprise, not bad surprises, nice kids, fun stuff.
That's great. Thank you very much, Scott and Susan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we'll move to item number 7, a review and approval of minutes of prior meetings. And do I have a motion to approve item number A? That is the regular council minutes from March 7th be approved as circulated. Motion to approve those.
Scott,
Second.
forward. Yeah.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I think I have a. Wait a second. Okay, so Karen,
Yes.
item 8B didn't end up getting changed. The email I sent you and the discussion we had, item 8B is back to the way it was. You don't,
Are you on the minutes or are you on the
I'm
agenda?
I'm on the minutes
Within the agenda.
within the agenda.
It's, I can't go and change the minutes.
So
We're doing it now.
Speaking to 7A.
Now, I'm not allowed, I'm not allowed to.
I thought if we caught it earlier before you'd actually given it to anyone. That's when I phoned you on the phone.
No.
All right, okay.
No, sorry.
Okay, and then I'll have to read my email. So item 8B is recorded incorrectly. It should read, and Karen's got this in an email. It was agreed we could do a third reading, sorry, we could not do a third reading, and to add a third reading to the agenda on March 7th, 2023, following which it would be adopted at the next regular council meeting, March 21st, which is tonight, or at a special meeting. That's how it should have read.
All right, yeah. Everyone fine with that?
Yeah, I've got another minor change on page, page 7, 3 application that says removal of a branch that is bigger than 17 millimeters or 3 3/4 inches. That should obviously be 70, not 17. 17 is 3/4 of an inch.
70 centimeters, did you say?
17 millimeters, not centimeters. And yeah, I think that's what I've got for changes. Really substance.
Michael, any changes?
No.
Councilor Ryder, any changes?
Yeah, on page 16, under 12B, it reads that bylaw officers are looking for a stronger ability to enforce the bylaw. I think it should just read that they're looking for the ability to have tools to be able to enforce the bylaw. Because there weren't any there previously. And under the resolutions, which start at the bottom of the first page, the 3 readings, I don't think it should read that council hold the first reading, was it? Or that council read?
Hold the second reading, hold the third.
You should probably say read for the first time, read for the second time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes much difference.
Yeah, it's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did it. We didn't plan to, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
That's
that's
what
it.
we're talking about, yeah.
Do you want to just dictate what you want that to read? Just
That
for-
council read for a first time, and then council read for a second time, and council read for a third time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, fine with that.
Under correspondence on page 17. It says carried at the bottom right-hand corner. That's not something that's carried, is it?
I believe I can go back to other minutes, but you have to accept the correspondence that has been presented.
Yeah, because it's not
That is.
it's not a motion, so it isn't carried. So I would just remove that word.
Also received,
Yeah.
should be received, I guess.
And you know, there are just a whole bunch of things in here. I mean, are these minutes or are these a verbatim report? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff like wildlife resistant enclosure and wilder resistant container. I mean, I'm just not quite clear on, are these minutes or a verbatim report?
Minutes can be verbatim. This is how these minutes were done. You know, we can, if you don't, you know, this is your opportunity to.
Yeah, I just don't want to take up, I mean, there's tons of this stuff in here, like on page 14, you know, we've got dead tree leaning towards house, dead tree leaning towards house, and then did not see lean. I mean, do we really need to have all this stuff in here? Branches that droop down lower than 15 feet create a canopy.
That stuff that you said.
Well, that was said, but do we need to have a verbatim thing, or do we just need to have a synopsis? I guess it's, I mean, we could go through this endlessly and correct or add things, but
I will say that the verbatim comes directly from the tape. So it's up to you what you want. I mean, I'm doing the minutes. That's how I did them. If you would like a synopsis, then, but to, you know, that's why.
I think
In the future, you're looking for something a little more concise.
I think somewhere between what Karen's done and what the previous call that was discussion ensued and nothing said. So I think we can find a happy medium somewhere in between those. I do have one other that I spotted there.
Let me just make note of that.
All right,
Just
Councillor
so I
Abbott.
can-
Yeah, I do have one other that I kind of haven't spotted under 10B.
yeah.
Mayor reports. It says see addendum for full report. There wasn't an addendum.
I was going to, Ken had a written report that I was going to add to that, the minutes.
Okay.
That never happened.
Maybe they haven't. Okay.
We can remove that, or we can still.
Strike it, that's fine,
Or add it.
or add it if you.
Or add it. The intent was to add the written report that he had brought the last time so that it was.
Well, it was on
It
a
was on
table,
table,
so
yeah.
I think.
Actually, it should be added. Yeah.
It should be added, yeah.
It wasn't on table though.
We were
Well,
given
it was brought, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, on table means at the beginning of the meeting and introduced, yeah.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think it would be useful to add it for the purpose of the record. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't occur that way, so I would be opposed to that.
How did it occur?
It was read verbally and it wasn't
Read verbally and later provided.
no, it wasn't provided.
No, he read it off a piece of paper.
Right.
Okay, read verbally.
Okay, so then add it inadvertently.
Well, you have it. All I have to do is cut and paste.
Yeah, exactly. But
Sure.
it's one of the same. I think we're talking about the same thing, so. Okay. All those in favor of the minutes, approving the minutes?
Do we not have, yeah, that was just the first one, right?
Yeah, just the first one.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
opposed?
Yeah, I'm opposed to these minutes
Okay.
in this form. Yeah.
All right, in favor, motion carried. Okay, 7B. Motion to approve the special council minutes from February 15th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
okay, discussion.
I just got one brief one on page 20. And it's a carryover of the sentence on the previous page. CAO, the review of the former CAO was initiated in July 2023 by the previous council. The current council approved the recommendation. I think that statement was made, but it was rebutted. So if the rebuttal isn't included, then probably the statement shouldn't be included, or the rebuttal should be included as well.
What are you suggesting?
What are you
Remove it?
suggesting? Do you want to remove that?
Do you want to remove it?
Or add the rebuttal in, whatever you guys are comfortable with.
Remove it.
Remove it?
Remove it. I'm fine with remove.
I'm fine with removing
Okay,
it.
sure.
Sure. Okay.
So we're removing the whole reference to the CAO's
Um,
I
initiated.
think it was like
was
the
informed.
second paragraph. Is that what you're looking at?
Well, yeah, the meeting was informed. Everything from that moment forward, then I guess.
The meeting was informed.
Okay, anything else?
Not for me.
Neville?
No, we've got a few minutes arising that we get
Okay,
checked, but. no.
all in favor? Or Michael one?
No, sorry, I'm just, no, there's no change. I'm just noting number C, that the Tamara Leger via question Mayor Barry's and note there that Mayor Barry denied allegations and requested that the question be put formally in writing. I was concerned about that the interaction, and went back and looked at the tape, because there was some question about whether or not the mayor actually denied the information that was alleged or whatever. And I believe on the tape, you denied it four times, said the word no 4 times. And just wanted to note that because subsequent reports have been that was not denied. And I think it needs to be very clearly stated that it was incorrect information.
Say in here that Mayor Barry denied allegations.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah, okay.
I don't think we need to say 4 times.
Yeah, okay,
Fine.
all right, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, opposed, motion carried. Okay, item number 8, business arising from minutes. Any business arising, unless I'm mistaken?
No, I've got a few.
Okay,
Okay, well, I think the first one sort of came up a little earlier. Item D sorry, I haven't got the actual minutes here, guys, because I did this on the weekend. So page 2 of the actual minutes, not page 2 of your package. Item D15.
Which minutes?
Sorry, go ahead.
February 15th minutes?
Of the March 7th minutes. Item D, D, all right, bottom of the page, bottom of page 2 of the actual minutes. It says item 15, new business, add CFO to report in writing to council how staff are compensated for attending the meetings.
sorry, now whereabouts is that? I've got the paper edition here. Is that?
Do you have the meeting page, the meeting number on the top of the page?
So meeting of March 7th, yes. Which number would it be, Neville?
4.
4.
D. There's a bunch of bullets, then it goes down to move in second.
Right,
So
yeah,
it changes
got it.
D.
So it'd be page 8 of our package.
Page 8 of your package.
Yeah.
Thank you. The bottom there, I would like that to be added to the unfinished business list.
So that would be CFO to report in writing to council or report on how staff are compensated for attending meetings.
Correct.
Right.
Okay,
And you want that under new business?
Yes, please. Thank you. And then on Marcus, help me out, page 7 of
Yeah.
12 of the minutes.
Yeah, so this would be our package, page 11, under 7.
Okay, so the top of the page there,
Yeah.
number 3. So this is about the EPC meeting.
No, I thought you were jumping to another one here. So just give the item number.
Item number 3 on top of page 7.
3, okay.
So item number 10
Sorry, we're on
D-
page 7.
of the meeting minutes.
10 what, Neville?
Page 11 of the package, Michael.
Thank you.
and which number?
10D3 EPC program.
Yes.
Okay.
10. Yeah, okay. got it.
Okay, all right, moved and seconded about alertable. Have we signed the purchase order yet? Or do we know what we've done?
I haven't signed a purchase, I haven't seen one either though.
So who's doing that? Not signed the purchase order, sending an agreement, whatever it is.
I'm not sure, it was in that meeting, but to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm sure who's doing
Okay,
it.
well, I believe from the email chains I've been copied on, we got an extra month's extension with the old package. But we need to get this done.
I'll have to go get it.
And maybe we should put that on the unfinished business list as well, if it's not there. And then of less urgency, I guess, is the emergency program coordinators budget and contract, but that'll come up in the budgeting stuff, I'm assuming, right? But that alertable one is really urgent. Okay, that's all I have for matters arising under those minutes. I have one other
Okay.
one in the other minutes.
I've got one from these minutes now, if I can jump in there. So this would be also from that same meeting. It's council package, page 12. And it's under item 9. And that would be the direction to the CAO to seek the legal opinion as to whether the budget goes to the finance committee or council first. So that should go on the unfinished business list as well. Actually, it's on there. It's on there, isn't it?
I think you did, didn't you? And didn't you receive? Yeah. And what was the outcome?
The outcome is I can report to a finance committee to obtain their advice prior to going to the council, which is a logical sense.
So say that again?
I can report and get advice from a committee, in this particular case, the finance committee,
Mhm.
before it goes to council. They just cannot make recommendations. They can give advice, but they are not approving anything.
So
It's
you,
like any other committee, we are using the expertise of the people in the community.
okay, so,
And I do have that opinion.
okay, so that would be good to see then, and distribute to everyone in writing.
Okay, I think I have copies of it actually, because I printed it out prior to the meeting.
Well, again, I'd say if this is something that's been done, that's great. And then it should have been brought on table at the beginning of the meeting and
Well,
not handed
you
out
just brought
here.
it up, so there's a legal opinion.
Well, no, it was on the unfinished items and,
We can look at it afterwards.
yeah. But again, I'd like to see this in the package when it is given to us, so that we have a time
Just received that.
to look at it.
In the last day, was it?
Yesterday.
Yeah, so. We're dealing in real time, but, okay, so anything else?
Not for me, for matters arising.
I just picked up something in the minutes, so if you don't mind, under section 270 on page 11, it says
Which minutes?
on page 11 of my regular
March 7th.
Seven,
March
yeah.
7th minutes, yeah, the one that we're in right now.
Under which item?
Unfinished business, it's just 270, it's just a minor point, but it says fine with Penny applying. I think that's The minutes have gotten a little bit informal in terms of if it's Penny, I think, who would that be? That would be
Nelson.
Nelson?
Penny Nelson,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, nothing further on item number 8. We'll move to item number 9, unfinished business, and we'll go right to 265.
So we
follow up
did,
with-
we had unfinished business from the next meeting, from the February the 15th meeting. We didn't do that.
Sorry,
On page 2 of the minutes
Of February 15th?
of February 15th, item 4,
sorry, what page we looking at? Yeah,
page 2 of the actual minutes, what is it? Can I go back? You got it?
Yeah, I'm getting there. This would be February 15th.
Yeah.
Page 9.
okay, and which item?
Okay. Number 4, resolutions.
Yes.
Mayor Berry noted the Ministry of Municipal Affairs had offered to provide and pay for assistance with the by-election. Can we get some sort of report on that and what they're paying for?
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
So, yeah,
Mayor Berry noted the Ministry of Municipal Affairs had offered to provide and pay for assistance with the by-election.
yeah,
No, that's not correct.
that's not correct.
No, the village pays for everything to do with the by-election.
What?
It's not what was said in the meeting.
I
Yeah,
think that's been pretty clear throughout.
No, they've offered to pay for an advisor, not.
Yeah, they pay an advisor.
Not the election.
Not the
itself.
election.
That's correct.
They stepped in to appoint people for the election because we were looking for assistance,
So,
but they're not offering to help on that.
They
financially.
did offer an advisor though.
no, and that's in the works.
That hasn't happened yet?
They expect, I was supposed to have a name middle of this week, but I don't have it yet.
Okay,
So it's looking at the end of the week, but it's got nothing to do with the by-election.
okay, so can we correct these minutes
Yeah, we could strike that. That should be
and?
for an advisor, not for the
Yes.
election.
Yeah, but-
and can we get, sorry, and can we get a report on the by-election costs? As well as an update on the,
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Can we just do one at a time so I can capture this, please? So if we can go back to, you want to report on the by-election, that's probably the easier one, under unfinished business.
report on the by-election costs, what it's costing us, yeah?
And that's coming out of the 15th meeting.
and this is what item in the 15th?
Number 4, resolutions on page 2 of the minutes.
Mhm. Well, we've already approved these minutes, right? So, yeah, I'm astounded to hear this because I remember hearing very distinctly multiple times that the ministry was going to pay for the
An
by-election.
advisor. Never the election.
The by-election.
I don't think it's ever, because we've even thrown out the numbers of 30,000 is what it would cost us.
Sure.
The ministry's been very clear, they will not pay for the by-election.
I'm shocked to hear that because in that meeting, I remember very well that Ken, you were saying that the ministry is going to pay for our by-election.
No, I said the ministry would step in and assist us on
Pay
an
for.
advisor.
Pay for was the word.
So, the ministry stepped in and actually took over our by-election because we weren't able to follow through with it ourselves.
Well, I would encourage you to go listen to the tape and you'll see yourself saying multiple times, we'll pay for
Well, that's
the
not the
by-election.
case.
Well, so what changed and why did you then make that claim?
That's never been the case. So,
Well, why did you then make that claim?
Is this to do with this agenda or what's?
yeah, good point. Okay, we'll move on here.
There's a second one though that was needing to be captured. There was the election, and at the same time, you were talking about,
Well, Neville had an item
I asked for an
for,
update on the advisor, but I think on to the work in progress, so in the next meeting. Or as soon as you know.
Yeah, I just don't know. They are working on it. I had a chat with the director on Friday last week.
And do we understand this guy's role? Is he going to show up here in person or is he going to?
It's a part-time role. And just, they're gonna give us a budget, certain amount of dollars, and we can use and just advisor. And what that means, we don't know yet.
Okay.
So hang on, they're gonna give us a budget and then we're gonna pick an advisor, or are they gonna provide us an
They are
advisor?
providing us the advisor,
With a
at
budget.
least with a budget, with a
Yep.
certain amount of dollars. It will be very part-time.
Mhm.
And then we'll go from there.
So you don't know whether he's actually going to come here or we can just send him questions. We don't understand.
Don't know enough yet.
Okay, it'll be good to understand.
Yeah,
I'm assuming they come here, whoever the person is.
Yeah, that was what we thought.
maybe for our meetings, that would be part-time, that would be helpful.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, all right. Okay, anything further? Item number 8?
No.
No, okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. And we'll move
Sorry,
to,
we were in unfinished business.
No, we were doing,
no,
we were doing
no.
business arising from the minutes. We did call, Ken did call it unfinished business, but that was business
oh,
arising
sorry,
from the minutes.
apologies, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want, just,
Item
sorry,
number
because,
9.
yeah, because I put it in unfinished business.
Oh,
So
okay,
I'm
well,
just,
just-
sorry, I'm stopping you guys this week because it's very difficult to go back. So you want me to move the 2 that I just put in unfinished business and I need to put them
Well,
on, no, just a minute, into business arising.
yeah, I can help you with that. No, we were in business arising. I asked if you could add those 2 to the unfinished business log. So that's where it should end up.
So it came
But
up,
I just, okay,
Yeah.
So you did, yeah.
so I just
You
put
put them in the right
the
place.
report of the election in unfinished business,
Yes.
that's correct. And the advisor for the village is that
Into unfinished business, yeah.
Correct. Okay, awesome.
And now we're starting at the top of the unfinished business.
All right, great. So we'll move to item number 265, follow up with the ministry regarding vacancy tax and report back to council. Councilor Reuter,
yep.
anything to report?
Yeah, that was not actually going to be just with the ministry, but that I'm working on something on that, but it wouldn't necessarily be limited to the ministry. I think last time it said the Minister of Finance, and this time it says ministry, but
How would you like that reworded? What would be?
following up on the vacancy tax.
Remove
Yeah.
the words with ministry.
Sure.
Follow up regarding, yeah.
That sounds good. Okay, anything to report now or?
No, I'll have something written then when it's ready.
All right, item 266,
Could I just note that there's a letter in correspondence that's will probably be very helpful to that, and I'm sure you've picked that up.
Which has come before. Yeah, they're very passionate about that.
It's the second
Yeah,
time.
and,
Yeah.
and, you know, perhaps there's
Yeah.
history that can be
Right.
applied to this. Yeah,
Right.
Perfect, thank you.
okay, great. Item 266, present budget to council. Mr. Miller,
So it's at least 2 to 3 weeks away. We're still waiting for some updated numbers on capital expenditures more than anything.
okay,
So are we gonna get this all in one big swath? And I say that because that's not the way it was done traditionally. I mean, many ways to do things. Not saying you have to do the way it was done in the past, but we used to get a CapEx report. We dealt with all the CapEx items and all the wishes and wants and new backhoes and all that other stuff. And then we did the utilities, the sewer and water bite, for example, which you tried to do tonight. Separately, we did that in advance. That's an easy one, right? Typically, it's a very easy one. And then, so we did them in bits and pieces, and then they got rolled up into a budget that then came to the council and got its 3 readings and all the rest of it. Just a suggestion, if you have portions of it ready, that might really help us to get.
I don't disagree at all. You started with the capital expenditures. I don't have that yet.
Okay.
So he's working on it. I think it's, right now, what I don't want to do is give an operating budget and recommend an increase in fees or not recommend an increase in taxes, for example, not knowing the rest of it. So I at least need to have a good draft of everything before I start giving it to you. And I'm happy to do it that way.
So another suggestion on that one, I think previously we wouldn't see it with this, with the recommended taxes in yet. And you only did that when you put the whole lot together.
And I'm okay with that. I just want to have an idea of where we're going. It's so preliminary. I just don't know where it is yet. We're very close. I'm just a little more public works. Infrastructure is really what the issue is.
okay,
And a lot of it's in line with what was said, they're gone. It was in line with what was said earlier. There's a 2 and a 5 and a 10-year plan. And I don't know the numbers yet. I know the numbers, some of the numbers, and they're big numbers. So I just need probably at least 2 weeks.
okay, well, obviously, we're all anxious to see something.
I bet you are, they're big numbers.
Okay,
Okay, I'm just wondering if there's a time that council can come together to really look at a context through which to look at the budget. I think there's different, I spoke to this in the finance committee meeting the other day, and that is that we are in a context of an economy which is where people are struggling, and that we really need to try to take that context to our budget discussions. And certainly there's incredible things that need to move forward for the village. But the fact that we have quite a number of residents who have been deferring their taxes, and it is generating a loss of equity for them, and people are starting to find that as housing prices are leveling out a bit, that their plan to downsize may be significantly impacted by tax deferral. So it's causing people to have some concerns. I think we all came into this role with a strong sense of fiscal responsibility. So I think we want to look very carefully to understand the budget, to look at different ways that we can get efficiencies from the budget, different ways that we can, for example, when we met with the bank, or representatives met with the bank, we found that there was interest that had not been taken full advantage of in terms of investments. So, there may be $100,000 of lost interest in the past, which is now available. And that to me is about 6% of our budget as I calculate it. So there's certainly things that we can be looking at. We've asked staff to be on site, which I think is going to cause fewer hiring of consultants and so on. So I think, as we look at the budget, we also need to be looking forward, but we need to be looking backwards and looking at our current expenditures and seeing how we can really trim things back. We've got young families, many who moved to our village in the last 3 or 4 years, signed up for pretty significant mortgages at fairly low interest rates, and are now struggling to not only meet with significant energy costs and food cost increases, but also looking at mortgage rates that may just go through the roof.
Okay.
So I'm just asking that we really consider the economy, how our village economy can be representative of what's going on for our community.
Okay, thanks for those comments. Any comments?
Yeah,
Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, just had a question, Mike. So are you proposing that we have a committee of the whole, and have a series of meetings where we're discussing this, or what are you suggesting?
I think it would be very helpful to have a committee of the whole meeting to see if we are all on the same page, and see if we can assist in guiding. Certainly, it's going to be really helpful for us to understand once our CAO, CFO understands the budget, to share that with us, and in general terms, and then we can really see what direction we want to take.
Okay. Councilor Ryder, do you want to comment on the committee of the whole suggestion, or that's what you're suggesting, Councilor Brown?
I think that would be could be very useful.
Well, I just wanted to say I would echo that if there are pieces of the budget that can already come sooner than 2 to 3 weeks, I mean, we're very late here, then it would certainly be good, Ron, to have those ahead as soon as they come, and not wait for a document dump 3 weeks from now. So if there are pieces that can come as they're ready, that would certainly be helpful, seems to me.
What about the committee of the whole idea? I mean, sometimes it does work to have the more informal kind of procedural.
I think that was a suggestion.
Kick it off.
I think that was a suggestion quite a while ago to do a committee.
Yeah. So you're open to that?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
I think we're all in favor of that. Then why don't we look to put. Now,
Sharing
if
a
you're,
philosophy in terms of what way we're going and.
okay, so you figure around 2 to 3 weeks, but you could keep us apprised of that timeline and.
First, yeah, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
So when we,
If
when
the
we
council's
see,
open to that, why don't we look to set up a committee of the whole in a couple of weeks?
One way or another, I'll have something to present in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Sounds
so
reasonable.
we want to get together ahead of that time?
Well, if we don't have,
General terms.
I think, let's, well, just my opinion, get some information.
Yes,
You know, otherwise we're
through.
going to be,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Won't be as productive.
I'm a numbers guy. For me to say anything informed, I'll be looking at numbers.
Okay,
okay,
okay, good. Any other further discussion on that? No? Move to item 267, letter for extension on the grant for the Clap building. Ron says that that's been completed.
Done.
Okay. Item 268.
sorry, could I just ask, is there any paperwork on that or?
Yeah, they wanted a quick email
Okay, and they approved it?
and he was fine with it.
Okay,
Did we get a response?
No. he's-
Justin, right?
Justin, he's sending it on and he'll send back a response, but he
He says.
is happy with the letter that he received and.
yeah. It just maybe included in the next question and response next time.
Well,
Where are we at on the next, sorry, I was going to something else, to a follow-up question. I cut you off, Ken.
which,
No, I thought I cut you off because I was going to a follow-up question.
with the budget?
No,
Oh.
on the table.
Okay.
Do we have any, do we know what the next steps are? How are we going to contract this? Is this RFP, I know it hasn't hit the street as far as I know.
I thought we were using, I don't say name.
Former fire chief.
Yes,
Yeah, Andrew Oliver.
Andrew was going to help, yeah, with some sort of management, project management thing. But the actual RFP itself is, the drawings are done, but it has never been issued. It was meant to go out in January.
I'll have to talk to Andrew about it. I thought that was all done.
Talk tonight.
If you,
Tonight?
if you took, yeah, and also to Nickel John.
Yeah, I was gonna say Russ.
Yeah.
Russ had also offered.
So as far as I understand it,
assistance.
I can help you. Andy. So
Okay.
we did the drawings. We had a construction management firm.
And they dropped it.
We shut them down. It's not blame them. We told them to stop work. So we can't blame them for that. And they're not coming back, as you know.
That's what I meant.
As you know, they now decided, well, 3 months is too long, we're not coming back. So now someone has to draft the RFP, you know, the words, the scope of work, the contractual language. From what I understand, all Russ Winklejohn has done and been contracted to do was the drawings. And it's been sitting there since January.
I'll talk to Nine, Andrew.
And you're going to be asking for another year's extension if that doesn't hit the street soon.
Okay, so you'll follow up then. All right. Item 268, building inspector posting. Ron, that's completed. See,
It's definitely completed. I think we had 2, 3 people. Nobody was qualified to do it.
okay, and,
So we're going down a different route. We're looking at different routes right now.
okay, and you've since had feedback on the architects and
Yes.
engineering.
That's not the long-term solution though, right?
I don't think so, no, but
No,
more
it'd be really expensive for owners.
for
For
who?
owners, it'd be really expensive to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just,
Because I mean, people are going to be charging a fee to drive out here to do an inspection. I would think for a homeowner, be doing a small renovation or even a new build, that might be cost prohibitive. Especially someone that may be doing a kitchen reno, for example, right? You have to pay a consultant to drive out here and do it.
yeah, so you're right. We're looking at different avenues, how to address that.
Yeah, we need a building inspector, is the bottom line.
So
I'm not sure, but we are looking at it.
Okay.
I mean, there's other alternatives. You can subcontract it out to people as well. Like I was talking to other villages, that's what they do. And, but they're just also busy. I couldn't get one.
So Ronnie, you're saying you've had some applications, but they're not qualified.
Correct.
So what is the interim solution right now for people who have open projects?
That they engage an architect, an engineer, and they submit a report that the work being performed is according to the bylaws and procedures or permits.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with that. I mean, architects and engineers can sign off on certain things. But I mean, if new permits come along, that's not going to help. Architects and engineers are not going to be addressing setbacks, framing, insulation, vapor barriers, all kinds of things go wrong on that all the time. You know, safety features like guardrails, handrails, sprinklers, they can't.
So we're looking at it.
Yeah.
All I can say is we're looking at it.
Well, hang on a second. Let me just finish here. They can't do a final occupancy permit. And finally, the biggest deal is that, you know, if you're going to have an architect or an engineer sign off, it's not consistent with our building and zoning bylaws because it calls for a building inspector. So we'd have to rewrite those. So, and then there's the liability problem, which is what if somebody signs off on something and then something has gone wrong? Who's going to make that right? If we tell an owner that they can have an engineer or architect sign off on something and then something goes wrong, who are they going to come after? They're going to come after the village.
Those are all good questions. I know that Ron and Karen reached out for opinions on that. So I've just handed Ron a legal opinion, and maybe you can share that with the council and for the record, just so that council is fully apprised.
We've got two here.
Yeah, just give one to perhaps share it with Michael and share one with Marcus and Neville.
So this is a legal opinion on what now?
What is required in relation to a building inspector?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we'll look at that.
It's,
We'll look at it.
it's not resolved yet.
But can I just ask, we are not at this point advising anyone who's got an open project to move forward and have an architect or engineer sign off on any aspects, are we?
Yes, we have moved forward on that. And we have instructed people who have open building permits to get an engineer or.
Michael, maybe share that with Neville.
Yeah.
Has anyone done so?
Sent out requests to these people. They have not got back to me yet.
Yeah.
Because they haven't got the opinion yet.
Yeah.
The certificate.
Yeah, I'll read that, but as I understand things, this is a huge liability problem for the village. But I'll have a look at it.
Okay, great. Why don't we move to item number 269, CFO position to be posted. That's completed. I see Ron as of March 16th. Anything further on that?
They're still coming in, lots of them.
Lots are coming in. I have to do something soon to fulfill that position or the joint position. So I'll do something very shortly.
Okay.
Now, that position was posted as part-time, or was part-time an option?
I think part-time was an option.
It's an
wasn't it?
option.
Well, it's listed as a part-time regular, and to Neville's point, we had instructed you to post it a CFO position, and we didn't say part-time.
You didn't say not part-time either.
Well,
Oh, actually, we did in the meeting, but anyway,
Good, so it's posted.
okay, all right.
So we've gotten a few applications. I'll look at them shortly. I'll look at the ones for the CFO. I won't look at the ones for the CAO. That's a different decision.
so you won't look at what?
I have looked at them. I won't be interviewing people for a CAO position.
You'll bring those to council.
Correct.
Okay.
And you can decide what you want to do with CAO, but I'll make a decision on financial help because we need some financial help.
Okay, so in the CIO position, we're just going to get a dump of all the resumes? You said there was 30, okay.
It's quite a few.
They're still coming in, so I've got all the files lined up, so.
So the CFO position, Ron, I would think that you should remove the word part-time from the posting. I'm looking at it now. Why would you limit us to a part-time person?
First of all, I don't think you need a full-time position. It is a part-time position. And we'll see what we get out of the applications.
Yeah, the direction was to post for CFO. If it had been part-time, I think that would have been the direction. So that wasn't the way it was, you were directed to. So I'd like to see that just as a CFO position. Because we might attract less.
I think in fairness to the CFO, CAO, we have to give him some allowance to make decisions on bringing in help if he's in need.
Sure, I'm just saying, open the net up wider because you might restrict applicants by saying part-time, and then that's a decision we could make. But I mean, the direction was put a posting out for a CFO. It didn't restrict it to.
Through the
part-time.
chair.
Yes, Councillor
Yeah.
Brown.
I believe the CAO, the acting CAO, has the role to hire or to hire this a CFO, and that is within his scope of his position. I don't think we're directing him, and I think if we look in our manual here that he does have that within his scope of authority. So I would not be interfering with how he is going to proceed with that, and whether it's a part-time or full-time. The matter, at the time that the previous CAO hired the current now CAO, CFO, my understanding of your mandate was to look at the needs of the community, and bringing your expertise as a very experienced auditor and accountant, that you would make suggestions to bring to bear. So I think you certainly have the scope to hire as you think is most appropriate.
Okay, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, Michael, when you were talking there, you started to say something about suggestions and then made them suggestions to bring to bear. I'm not sure what that means. I personally think if the organization structure of the village as to how many FTEs we have and the structure of the village staff, I think that's a role that should definitely come back to council for discussion. I understand the CAO has some autonomy. You have a one employee rule. I know what it's all about. But changing the overall org chart of the village is something that should be a council decision. And I think that's where we're going here. So I would like to see that to come back for the discussion.
Okay, my feeling on it is, I think if it's a senior role, the CFO or CAO, that would be coming to council. If it's someone, an assistant to help in what you need, and it seems as though right now you need definitely need some help. So I would put that right into your decision making. You know better what the needs are in that office and the council. So
I do agree with Neville in that if I was going to add people, that's increasing a budget without approval. But if I'm finding ways to be more efficient, like not hiring a full-time CFO, hiring a part-time CFO, or changing the word, whatever it is, I think that's good management.
It's still a change to the org chart, and that would have to come before council. And the direction was to advertise for a CFO. I mean, that would seem to me to be the smartest thing to do. Open the field up, and then we can discuss this further. But I mean,
the direction was to post for a CFO.
Correct.
I get that.
Yeah, but you posted for a part-time CFO, which was not the direction.
Posted for a CFO.
You posted for a part-time CFO. And that's a change in the org chart.
I'm not so sure about that.
Go take a look at it.
Is there an org chart?
Yep, there is an org chart. Yep.
Is it in the policy that bylaws that the org chart is approved by council?
Haven't looked for it.
Mr. Miller, Young and Anderson gave you some feedback earlier today. And what was their feedback on?
No, the feedback is that I have the authority to hire an assistant or people working inside the village.
Yeah, but we're not talking about assistants here. I mean, Ken talked about it. We're talking about a CFO, a senior position. This is not somebody who's going to bring you coffee. This is a CFO, right? We're not talking about an assistant. This is somebody who will take on the role once you've gone, right?
I think, are we caught up in titles or are we talking about employees?
We're talking about the position and the responsibilities. I mean, it's not an assistant, it's a senior position, one of the most senior positions. Yeah.
And I believe I have that authority.
Okay.
Council engages the CAO. CAO engages everybody else, except for fire chief or whatever's in the bylaws.
Maybe you should share that legal opinion with the councillors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, legal opinions from whatever law firm that.
That's a village law firm, by the
If I
way.
can finish for a moment, legal opinions from whatever law firm is being consulted these days, whatever. The requirement is for a CFO. And I would just suggest you cast the net wide and remove the words part-time.
Well,
Because it's not an assistant, it's a senior
Okay, so
position.
let's call. And in depth, yeah, I knew you'd want an opinion, so we did talk to them. I'll share these with you guys. Look at them in your own time.
Yeah. I'll certainly will.
You got more copies or?
No, we have to show you some copies by the looks of it.
okay, why don't you can take your time looking at that. We'll move to the next item. 270, the bird friendly invasive species. And that is.
Yeah, I could probably give an update on that. They did talk today. I didn't get a report back of what might be needed. It may be something on a letterhead. I'm not sure. But they did talk. They were having a conversation with it. It's in hand. Just leave it in hand. Don't strike it yet.
Okay.
May need
So
some.
leave it as ongoing.
Yeah, it may need some sort of village letterhead. I'm not sure.
271 utilities notice, Mr. Miller. Any update?
That's what we talked about earlier. It's just been taken off. I think it's off the agenda for now.
Okay, so this will be coming in.
It's ready, but I think you'd like to look at the numbers first before the meeting. I was going to present them, but I have no problem distributing.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, item 272, First Nations land acknowledgement. Excuse me. Mr. Brown.
That will be coming up, that will be coming up under resolutions in item number 11, so I'll just defer to them.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll move to number 10, reports and staff, CFO information report, check registry. Any comments on that, or we take that as read?
One's a question that highlighted. Does anyone know if this $5,500 for fixing the bay door on the fire department was
Yes.
insurance claim? Do we know?
That's when the door was propped open for a while there.
Yeah, and it's in here. There's a few line items. It's about $5.5K in total. Well, it's actually a bit more. It's another one maybe down over $6,000. I'm just wondering if it was an insurance claim or not. Just interested. The reason. Someone could find out. So, and then there's just a few little observations that intrigue me. And one of the reasons we get this report is it makes you think about how we spend our money. So in 3 months, we spent almost $10,000 on salt. And in the same 3 months, we spent almost exactly the same number on hydro. So there you go, guys. We spend as much on hydro as we do on salting our roads. It's a big number. But it's not one we can do without. I'm not suggesting that, but it's a big number for 3 months. I'm not sure if that carried us over the season, but I think we had to reorder. And then just looking at some of the other ones in there and combining some of them, because there's several invoices on the same thing, makes me wonder about a few projects that seem to have sort of gone off the radar. So, and maybe we can put these on the action items. The rail crossing study that cost us $16,200, much to my chagrin, because I argued against it. But anyway, we should definitely get a report back what we got for that $16,000. This all started with removing a traffic sign. There you go. Careful what you wish for.
What was the background on that? And did we have to have that study?
It started off because we wanted to remove a traffic sign. The railway said
the stop sign. The
stop sign going to Lions Bay Avenue. Railway said we had to do a study if we wanted to do that. We ended up having to do a study on all 3 crossings, and the question was only on 1. And I said, at least only do 1. But anyway, well, I'll stop there with what I said.
Why did we have to remove or want to remove that, or was that?
No. Sorry, let's do the right way around.
The other way around.
The other way. The railways told us to remove the sign. there were some people on council as well as some residents that said, why remove the sign? In order to keep the sign, we had to do the study. And then somehow we ended up having to do a study on all the other crossings, including Brunswick, which has booms, for goodness sake. Anyway, I think we need to get a report back, what we got for our $16,000 and what happens next. And if it saved a sign, it was an expensive one. If it didn't save a sign, it was a real waste of money.
And it didn't appear that the study applied to Lions Bay Avenue.
We ended up doing 3 studies, one on each rail crossing.
Okay, I missed one then. So I didn't see the Lions Bay Avenue. Anyway, I'll review that.
Michael, you spoke to this, I think, that when that came up, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've spent $16,170 on
Which
it.
I didn't believe that we needed to have the studies done.
You and many others.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's find out what we've got, get a report back. Maybe that can go on the new business.
Yeah.
And then Lions Bay Connector, Michael, you've spoken to this.
Yeah.
He said, and I don't think that's on the unfinished business. I think this conclusion was we were going to share this with residents, the outcome of that conceptual design. We haven't done it yet. Just for interest, that cost us $13,400 in this report. It might have been more.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other one's a cub design, but that's something different. I don't know. We should probably find out where that's going in the near future. But
Okay, what is the cub design?
what is it?
Yeah.
Did you explain it to you? Or you asked me how much is it?
What is it? No, explain very briefly. I'm sure a lot of people don't know what the CUVB design is.
It's the water pipeline that comes here. Center Road is the C, Upper Bayview is U and B is Bayview, I think. So it's the water pipeline that comes across here, goes up Center Road and goes up Upper Bayview.
Okay.
And it's the next big water project we need to do. It's the design of that.
Right, perfect. Okay. It's just that we're talking to a pop, I think we've got 40 some odd people online with multiple letters flying around. I think this is useful. I just was noticing that we're paying approximately $10,100 a month in miscellaneous loan payments. Plus the MFA loan shows $79,334. There's a Metro loan here for $23,451 and so on. And I just think it would be very, very helpful. I think one of the roles of the Finance Committee would be to kind of pour through this kind of document and bring their acumen to looking at the costing. I mean, we had $5.7 million in our bank account in January. We're looking at all these different loans and things. So I just think it's really important that we understand all these different numbers. I'm also was fascinated by the fact that we're paying $2,000 a month for parking meters and $1,050. And I'm not clear what the software cost is for the parking meter. So
I believe
anyway.
it's, I could be wrong, but I believe that it's connected to they have their handheld
Right.
things and it needs a program to read so that people can.
The program to read.
And
Okay.
also when you purchase a parking ticket so that you can download. that,
Okay.
et cetera.
Okay, I'm going to be very interested to see the breakdown of costs as we're looking at the whole parking enforcement and so on. I think that's going to be very, very helpful. Couple of other things I was just trying to notice. Okay. Okay, so anyway, I think looking at this document, which was provided, which is the payments for the last 3 months, over $900,000 was paid out. So I think it's really worthy of a very serious look. So I just really appreciate having it. The question that I have though is looking at the document, how many of these items are actual checks, which would be signed by 2 different parties typically? And how many of these payments would be by direct payment? Do you have any idea?
Very few are direct payment.
Very few are. Okay.
I'm gonna say 95% are written
Okay.
checks.
Okay, so only about 5% roughly would be that. Okay, that's very helpful to know. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All
right.
Sorry, just one last observation, Ron. So we used to get an Excel spreadsheet of this. An Excel spreadsheet
Of what them?
of this report,
Of the check register.
Of this printout.
just,
As opposed to a PDF?
just to councillors. Yeah, we used to get, PDF used to go out in the web, in the agenda package. We used to get it, Pam used to send us an Excel version so we could fiddle with it and add up and
Sort.
filter and do whatever we
A
want.
bit of sorting, yeah.
So
You want an Excel spreadsheet of just the checks that are written?
of
the
this,
same thing.
this report,
Same thing, just this
we
report.
used to get this report in a PDF and an Excel.
Sure. There's no reason not to do that.
That'd be very helpful.
And a lot of the questions I think you were raising, Michael, again, there'd probably be ready answers if we had Nye in the room. He could probably answer some of those questions, or at any future time he's visited. He'd probably have a lot of background information. So another reason to have him in the room,
Or to ask them the questions, yeah.
or to have him present. Yep.
Yeah.
Ron, what's your feeling on that?
Well, I think everybody knows my feeling on that. That's another employee coming out to using their night every 2 weeks. Let's see, if there's a question, if there's something that's pressing, certainly bring Nye or any other staff member. But if there's a question on a check, you know, that's either a question to me or a question to the accountant, question could be anything. It's payments.
Yeah, but Ron, you don't have the background and Nye does, and it does come up regularly. So it'd be just good to have him.
So we'll send it, if there's a request, we'll send them a request.
Good to have it in the meeting.
Okay, any other comments? No?
I have one. There was a question about what you're gonna call the check register. Are we gonna call it a check register, not accounts payable listing?
It's a check register for the period.
I don't care what you call it.
Okay. All right, item number 10A2, municipal grant applications. Okay, that's page 33, and the council approved the grant applications as submitted.
So moved.
Second,
Yeah, I'll second.
okay, discussion. Councilor Broughton.
I just was really impressed reading through the applications, the incredible value that the village is getting for most of the grant applications were, you know, time in the village hall and so on. So basically very little cost to the village with incredible benefit. So I think it just speaks to some of the comments earlier about the incredible breadth of volunteerism that we have in the community and the incredible value that the community gets from those volunteers. So anyway, I just very impressed with the applications.
Yeah, point well taken, and very encouraging to see all the volunteers step forward. Any comments, Councilor Ryder or Abbott?
Emily, you got something? Go ahead.
There you go. Okay, so just on the events committee, yeah, like Michael just said, very pleased to see how much money they've raised outside of the community, which has managed to keep them down. And, you know, it's the biggest one by far. We understand that, but it's probably the most expensive to do. But likewise, very impressed by the fact that they raised, I think they raised like 10 grand and they're asking for 6, and it certainly makes it more palatable. And yeah, just keep that trend going. I would like to see all these committees get down to just asking for non-taxpayer in kind. But I do understand, you know, the need to some seed money and keep them going. Just one observation on the events committee, it wasn't $1,750 last year. It was more than that. There's something a little goofy there. I think they had an extending bank balance, but they had to come back to council for more money. But that was the first year they'd taken over. They didn't understand, and it was like, whoops. So yeah, they're certainly more frugal this year and done a great job. So overall, I'm happy with everyone from that point of view. And yeah, you know, likewise, you know, the gardens were one that's asking for a little bit of money, native plant gardens, but I do know that they have a program of trying to seed their own plants, and if that works, they could actually they can actually not need any money in the next few years. So that's great. I think everyone's doing what they can to take it out, get away from them leaning on taxpayers. And I think that's really good.
Fabulous. Councillor Ryder?
Yeah, fantastic. I'm encouraged to see the amount of other funding that's being accessed, and I think I'd like to see it continue to head in that direction. But very good stuff.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move right to item number 10D, committees. Tree committee, revision of tree application number 124 on 14 Brunswick Road. The motion is to approve the revised tree application as presented. Do we have a motion for that?
Move to get it on the floor.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. I mean, I've gone down and looked at it again. I mean, I think we gave the applicant two options. And I've gone down and looked at it again. I personally am not comfortable with the wording of this. There are, as I understand it, the idea is to trim all these, to cut these trees or to do work that is in front of 10 and 12 and 16 and 18, consistent with the look and feel of what's in front of 14. Aside from the fact that there are a number of significant trees involved, aside from the fact that, you know, this is a public park, that there are, you know, issues with tides and protecting public infrastructure there. The trees in front of 14, which are few and have been trimmed or lost limbs at a fairly high level, if you were to do that on the other trees, I think you'd be in a situation where you might be endangering the health of the trees themselves because their canopies are significantly lower. So I would like to see the arborist come in and assess it all. And I think that would be best for, that would be the best outcome.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
My understanding was there was an arborist involved. And also that the tree committee was involved at the earlier stages here. And that this is consistent with those recommendations, but I'm not, so it seems like that's redundant.
Well, I mean, to be clear, we looked at that last time and we presented an option. And there were a number of things that we wanted to address there. And I think the applicant has come back for a second ask. I mean, those two options are still on the table, and the applicant is asking for an amendment of that.
Yeah.
And I think that the route that the option we presented, which is that the trees would be assessed by Heartwood and commissioned by us, and the cost would be, I believe it was split between the applicant and us, would lead to the most independent assessment and most thorough examination of the trees there.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, we'll stick to the speakers list. Councillor Abbott, you're next.
Okay, yeah, I think Marcus has said where my head's going. We said it, I think whether we minuted it that way or not, I think we were to kind of independent arborist. Not that anyone's, you know, dishonest or corrupt, but the person who's got the contract to cut the tree has a vested interest. He can't be impartial. So that's why we wanted an impartial artist. Heartwood has done this before for us. She knows the tree permit process. She knows our bylaw. So I don't think I think that's the right arborist to do the job, and we offered to behalf. So I'm agreeing with Marcus. I think that's where we should go. And I just want to emphasize the thing Marcus said. These are significant trees, and people need to read the bylaw about significant trees. And if you don't, if your permit doesn't even mention the fact the significant trees, I think you've missed something. And that's the missing point for me.
Could I make a suggestion that if Mr. Edwards goes ahead with getting the arborist in, and the arborist is comfortable with this these, that he'd be able to go ahead with that? I think there's a time thing here, right before the bird season.
But I mean, that's why we presented the other option of going ahead and just trimming everything at 15 feet or lower. I mean, I think we all understood that getting the arborist in might not satisfy. I mean, we're looking at what, March 26th. So I don't know if it can happen that fast, but I think that if we're going to go that route, that we should just we shouldn't prejudge whatever the arborist is going to say and make a motion in advance of that. We should consider what the arborist brings and puts before us.
Okay, I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor?
I'm sorry, what is the motion? I'm not.
The motion is a motion that council approves the revised tree application number 124 as presented. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Yeah.
Okay, motion
I
carries.
would, yeah.
Okay, we'll move to item number.
And then we make sure the applicant still understands the original options still on the table.
Are there?
Yeah, we haven't removed that or rescinded it or anything.
Okay.
I'm just trying to facilitate
Item
something happening
number
quickly.
D2, the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Award. Council approved the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Committee recommendation to increase the amount of the annual award from the current $750 to $1,000, and the council be authorize the committee to work with staff to adjust the village website and the village update notifications and award applications as applicable. Do we have a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll put that forward.
Okay, second.
Yes, second.
Okay, discussion.
Can I just ask the wording under B to work with staff to adjust the village website? Is that what you?
Update.
Yeah, update might be a better word. Sure.
Okay.
Is it because you, the layout or the content?
It's mainly the content.
The content. So we'll just update then.
Sure.
Update. I'm just, I'm not sure why council is authorizing this. I think that the CAO would be within the CAO's authority. So I just not clear why we would be instructing on this.
Okay.
I think it's an enabling thing that would need to happen to properly adjust the operation of the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund.
So maybe I should just speak to it. I did submit a report, but I see it's not here. I did do an RFD. I did submit a report. And I think it was one of the ones disjointed from the rest, was the one I got in before 12 o'clock on Thursday. But anyway, that being said, I can talk to it, I can remember it. So just bring everyone up to speed. Curly Stewart Award used to be, in the beginning, in the early days, I believe it was a fundraise thing.
It's fully funded, yeah.
Yeah, fully funded. I don't know when that changed, certainly before my time. I'm going to say it was 2 councils back. It could have been, I think I'm pretty sure then. I think they decided that, no, we're just going to take it out of taxpayer money. And they've got changed to being tax, and they made it $500 then.
Yeah.
And then they're going to take it out of taxpayer money. When this Curly Stewart group got together, one of the first things someone put forward was, taxpayers shouldn't be paying for this, we should raise funds. And I'll send you the guys' report afterwards because it's not in here, so it's a little disappointing, the report. We have grown it significantly through fundraising to the point that we now have $12,000 or $13,000 in the bank. If I remember correctly. Now I'm going to get the numbers wrong.
Yeah.
Something like that. Big boost last year from the tree funds, thanks to Charlie Bradbury. That was a great effort by her through the Christmas tree thing. And the committee also chose, when it said when they were going to go back to making it fundraised, that they wanted to increase the award. So does it come back to council? It was council that set it at 500. It was council that approved it to go to 750. I had to bring that to council. So now I'm bringing a resolution to council to move it up to 1,000. I don't know that it has to come to council. That's just what's happened before.
No,
Council did set the original.
I support A.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just suggesting that
don't need a resolution.
enabling information just comes out of that. So that we wouldn't be instructing
the second part of the resolution.
Second part of the resolution, yeah. Yeah. Okay, just to be clear.
My one other request on the second part of the resolution, Ron, and maybe you take this offline, is to have one, and I think all committees need this, have one point of contact. It's really difficult when you have to contact one person to do this. And I can't remember who's doing the agendas this week versus who's doing the posting versus the village. If each committee had one point of contact and that person could spread it to the others, there, Karen's agreeing. That would really help. One point of contact, please. Per committee.
For committee to
your
for the
office,
agenda to the office.
to your staff.
There's several points of contact and the information gets.
So I have to contact one person for the agenda and one person for the posting and one person for the village update. I can't remember who's who. It's easier if we have one point of contact per committee. And then that person can tell us if someone else is doing the agenda or doing the minutes, just tell the other person to do it. The council and the committee has one point of contact. Making life much easier.
Council and the committee.
Okay, hold on.
The committee through council. Yeah.
Mike, Councillor Broughton will go to Councillor Router. And then I'll finish off. We'll come back to you. Councillor Ryder.
I'm good with this.
Okay, my comment would be, I'm fine with A. The increase is fine to me. B, I think we have to be careful on committee members reaching out to staff. I think it should be going through you or someone that you designate, Mr. Miller, CAO.
No, that's a very good point. I thought we resolved all that, but.
Can I just, sorry, I badly worded. I meant the committee through the chair. I meant through the council chair. I didn't suggest that the committee is going to go directly to staff, although in some cases on the VU stuff, yes, Jen has worked directly with some of the staff members. But if you insist on breaking that link, we can.
But your preference is to have one person that committee
deals with, yes.
Deal with.
Yeah.
Per committee.
Okay, I know what you're going to ask.
It's likely, you're likely going to have one person. What I think I would want to see is committee members reaching out to all your staff at different times, and then you're being blindsided.
And I don't know how overworked they are.
Right.
Okay, I think I have a solution to that, but let me give it some thought.
Do we want to strike B and just approve A and leave B with Ron to figure out?
Come back to us
there.
Come back to us on all committees. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Oh, just to clarify.
Sorry.
So what's happening here then is the Curlew Stewart Memorial Trust Fund Committee is generating funds and offering the scholarship, which is a wonderful scholarship. And the village is topping it up.
No, the village is.
What's this happening in the past? Pardon?
Oh, in the past. So in the past,
that's
previous councils, they stopped raising funds and they just got taxpayers to pay for it.
They didn't use the funds that were already in existence.
There was a small balance in existence that actually, so when I dug into this, it turned out that small balance in existence stayed. That small balance is about $5,000. We've increased it. This committee has increased it to significantly more.
Right.
And it has no taxpayer money involved at all.
Right.
But it sits in the village bank account.
Right.
It's a fund managed by the village.
Okay. So it's just accumulating, it's growing, which is great.
Growing faster than we expected. So we try and spend it a little bit faster without being silly.
So, but those funds are being drawn on to pay for the scholarship. Is that right?
From the funds raised by fundraising.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't cost the taxpayers of the village.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Okay. No, and with the, in terms of my discussion earlier on, in terms of costs of everything, I just totally support the concept of increasing to $1,000 for the students. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move the motion on item A. We'll eliminate item B for our future discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And Karen, you'll put that on the action log? Karen?
On the action log, yeah.
Okay, item E, emergency services, the RCMP report, move that the council receive the RCMP monthly report for November and December 2023.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, item number 11A, resolutions move that the council approve the use of the First Nations land acknowledgement as follows. Michael, this
Right,
your
okay.
project. I'll pass it over to you.
Okay,
Councillor
thank you
Brumby.
very much. I was asked at the last meeting to provide information as to the contacts that I had made and the, how I came to the resolution that I had brought to council. I was asked to put that in writing. I have put that in writing. It is in the package. And so on the basis of that, I am making a recommendation and thus a motion that council implement a land acknowledgement at the beginning of each formal meeting in a form that acknowledges ancestral ownership of Lions Bay lands. So if I could could I put that, first of all,
Okay.
move that?
It's a motion, second.
No second.
Okay,
Second.
discussion.
Okay,
Michael.
if I could just give a little bit of background. As the First Nations liaison for Lions Bay Council, I have sought to find an appropriate acknowledgement to begin our meetings. The consistent theme of my research is that there is no one best acknowledgement, but that sincerity, respect, and thoughtfulness are key factors. Further, consistent with the third element of a sincere apology, commitment to the future is important. While there is much wisdom to be gained in a prolonged discussion, I believe it is important to start our process and commit to continue learning and to improvement. That which we pay attention to changes is a very important quote. Residents love and respect Lions Bay. Being aware of the history of this very special place, together with doing our best for the present and planning for the future as stewards of the land, is vitally important. So during this process, there's a list of people who I've been in contact with, either by email or in discussions or formally and informally. I was asked to list them. I have done so. The one person who have not directly spoken to is Elizabeth Ross, the Language and Cultural Affairs representative of the Squamish Nation. I've had some discussions as to perhaps why there haven't been ongoing discussions there. So anyway, in terms of the introduction that I gave, what I would ask is that we begin a process and that we look at different possibilities in terms of how we might open our meetings and the recommendation here is anyway, so I'll leave the initial motion in place and ask for support from council.
Councillor Ryder, any comments?
Yeah. So this is essentially a written version of what you brought us last time verbally, I think. And just a couple of questions. And I had that question last time, which is that the Language and Cultural Affairs person, Elizabeth Ross, is somebody who you still haven't had any contact with?
That's right.
Yeah, that seems to me to be someone whose input that you would likely wish to have. It seems to me to be a very important piece of input that's missing. And I would say generally that, we've had some, first of all, I recognize this is a difficult and it's a complex matter to get this right? It's a part of an ongoing discussion. We've had some background discussions on this. I think I expressed to you all that, I have had many hours of discussion with some First Nations friends of mine, and to a person, what they have reported to me is, for God's sake, don't make this performative. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. They want to see something that is authentic and real. I don't know. You know, there's a piece of wisdom in cognitive science and ethical philosophy, which says that an element of constant perception soon becomes invisible. And I see this in other places where something is read over and over again. And that to me is, as at least as reported to me in discussions with First Nations people that I've had, that have been huge and ongoing, really interesting discussions. That is what upsets them. That's what's been reported back to me. And I know I don't have the answer for this here, but reading a statement has a by rote feel to it. I understand that others do it, but I think we could and should do better, and do something that's more authentic than that. I don't know what that is. I'm not claiming to know what that is. But reading a statement over and over again has a performative aspect to it that I'm not entirely comfortable with, and which then can create the opposite outcome of the intention. That's my worry and concern here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, Michael, I guess I've only really got one question. So you're suggesting that there's no prescriptive statement that everyone's going to make, that everyone finds, whether at a personal level or relevant to the meeting they're holding, finds a relevant statement and reads that. That's what you're suggesting. So we would all come up. So, you know, I might come up with one on the Climate Action Committee that I think is appropriate to the Climate Action Committee, and we might just keep using that, or other people might, or we may make it more personalized. That's what you suggest.
Yeah, I'm suggesting, through the chair, suggesting that, and I do have a recommendation here, that council accept these statements as non-prescriptive examples of possible acknowledgement. The addition of local names and pronunciations may also be considered, as well as providing a commitment of respect of the land. And I have 3 different examples there. We are privileged to be meeting and doing work on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam and Squamish nations. I was asked, in fact, to put them in alphabetical order, which is interesting. We are privileged to be meeting and doing work on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam and Squamish nations, and commit to respecting the land as those who came before us is a possibility. And the third would be, for example, for the climate change. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the unceded traditional territory of the Musqueam and Squamish peoples, and as we address climate issues tonight, we will respect the stewardship of those who came before us. So I think it's just to create, you know, a thoughtfulness around the potential honoring, and it's a beginning. I'm not saying it's. I'm suggesting that it be non-prescriptive, and that certainly it begin a discussion. So I'm requesting that my recommendation be supported, but I'm open to the wisdom of council.
Okay. Well, I see it as a sign of respect for our First Nation neighbors, and so I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Can I just ask one more question here? I'm just curious, Michael, was there ever any suggestion that was brought forward about doing something in my view that would be more meaningful than a statement that is read out? Like, I mean, could there be a festival that is initiated, that is had? Are there perhaps people from the Squamish Nation who might be interested in working at an intern position in our staff position, and just really bringing somebody in and doing something that's more than just a statement? I'm just wondering if that came up in discussion.
No, that wasn't what I was pursuing at this point. I was pursuing a First Nations acknowledgement, which certainly came up multiple times in discussions during the election period and subsequent to that. And so certainly those things can be pursued, and certainly this would not preclude any of those happening. So
right. I guess my concern is that we we do this and then it stops here.
Yeah.
And that we feel we've ticked off a box and then we move on, and that then we end up in that conundrum, which as has been expressed to me, that so many other places find themselves in, which is that there is a reading of a statement by rote and that doesn't achieve the intended respect. And one final point, I mean, we are meeting here as representatives of the people of this village. And I mean, how do we, what kind of data or information do we have as to what residents wish to see in this matter? I mean, I'm unsure about that. I mean, there may be various and different permutations of what residents might like to see in this thing that I don't know how that's been taken into account.
Okay, Councillor Ryder, thank you for that. The speakers list has Councillor Abbott up, and then we'll call the question. Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I've listened and heard opinions, and mine was fairly short, but
All right.
Decision.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you for your support. Great.
Okay. We'll
Sorry,
move to the next.
through the chair, if I could just interrupt. Just
Yes.
shortly. Karen, I just resent to everyone the Curly Stewart RFD, I think Thursday last week. Can we just add it to the minutes and call it on table? People can look in their own time. It was prepared in time.
Yeah, and while we've stopped the, so yes, and
I see it. Yep.
if we can just redo the motion for the RCMP, it said, or unless you want to just approve this, 2023, it should be 2022, November and December of 2022.
Yes.
As read.
Okay.
Correct that, yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move to item number 12, the bylaws. Motion that the council grant an exception to the noise control bylaw number 283.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
That's to allow for the concert in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Okay, item 12B, motion that the council adopt the garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, 2013 amended bylaw number 625 as presented. A motion.
I'll put that forward.
Second.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Could I speak to that?
Councillor Brown.
Yes, I've spoken to this a number of times, as everyone is aware, and my initial concern coming in was regard to budget and any impact on budget at the time. I'm very proud to say that Lions Bay is putting their money where their mouth is in terms of Bear Smart support. I've noting on the AP report, or what did we ultimately call it? The
Check register.
Check
Register, I think.
check register report that during the final quarter of last year, there was over $10,000 spent on either bear-proof garbage containers for the village, bear-proof rodent traps, and also I think $2,700 in studies of attractants and also presentation to the school. So I'm very proud of the community for really stepping up and being in support. But at the same time, I'm very concerned that what the implications might be of passing the bylaw. And while I'm certainly in full support of the bylaw, we'll be voting for it this evening. I will be doing a follow-up motion just that we monitor the costing over the next year so that we're aware. Because this was my concern going into it, that we didn't perhaps understand any impact it might have. So I was just want to be aware
Can you
of
clarify
any
that
impact it
follow-up
might be.
motion?
Well, the follow-up motion would first of all, I'd
At a later date, is that what you?
support that, yes, that staff provide council a report of all costs related to the application of bylaw 625 provide that to the second regular council meeting of 2024. In other words, just that there's follow-up and, what are the implications? What was the impact? And also at the same time, we probably would say, and what was the benefit? Because we've, at that time, we'll hopefully report that there has been no animals
Wayne.
destroyed and so on.
That's wonderful.
So I'm sorry, that's, I've linked two ideas together.
Yeah.
Maybe we can move ahead with
Okay, so this follow-up will be at another date. Is that what you're?
the follow-up I'm asking staff would provide follow-up at the second regular council meeting of 2024.
So you want to put that forward as a resolution tonight?
Yes,
Can we do the adoption first and then discuss that?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Abbott,
Nothing more to say. I'll call the question on the.
Councillor Reuter.
Question.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, so adoption is done. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, when were you proposing? to
Okay,
put
so
this?
I would move that staff provide council a report of all costs related to the application of bylaw 625, the bylaw we've just implemented. And that would be supplied to the second regular council meeting of 2024. Somewhat arbitrary, but I'm just saying, it'll give time to see the impact, any potential impact, and ahead of next year's budget.
Okay, so that's motion, second.
Can we just read this, please? Sorry.
Okay, so that staff provide council a report of all costs related to the application. I'll give this to you. Of application of bylaw 625 to the second regular council meeting of, I put a date, but it's, I don't know what it is, of 2024.
And Michael, can I
Do
just?
we have a second for that before we have discussion?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, you had mentioned something also from staff as to the benefits. I mean, that might be a little difficult for staff, right?
No, I'm just saying that probably at that time we'd say, if we're going to be focusing on the cost, but we might also say, and the benefit was, just, I'm saying that's more an incidental comment,
Right, yeah.
not related to the
Go ahead.
motion.
Councillor
So
Abbott.
you had
Just an awareness.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, it's just, my point, my observation was that it would be hard for staff to quantify benefits because the benefit would be that essentially that we're, coexisting with bears happily and effectively. So
I'm
that's
not
hard to
suggesting-
quantify in terms of.
I'm
numbers.
not suggesting
Yeah.
benefits yet.
Anyway,
Councillor Abbott.
My question is, from what you asked, Michael, I think you might have to, if we do want to do this, you have to phrase the question a little bit more accurately. So my first thought was the bylaw 625 versus the old bylaw 455. Do you want to know the difference between those two? That should be really easy to calculate and wouldn't amount to much. Because we didn't change a whole lot. We changed the bylaw, but we didn't change what we were already trying to do without a bylaw, right? Staff time and everything was still exactly the same. I think the answer is probably zero. Think about it a bit further. I think the answer is zero. So you can do it really quickly. It's done now. If you're asking what it costs for us to be a base smart community, it's a much wider question. And it'll take some doing. And to your point about, you mentioned numbers in this AP report, bear bins, big dollars, they cost $3,500 a pop. Whether we bear smart, kill bears or don't want to kill bears, I don't think we're ever putting any other kind of garbage bin. And it's not the bears' fault that they're putting those garbage in these places because we've got additional hikers and additional areas opening up and we need more bins down at the beachfront and so on. So I don't know that question is readily answered the way it's phrased. I do know that through the budget cycle, we're going to start to see some of these costs. And we can ask, we look, what did we spend on garbage was last year, whatever. We're going to start to get a feel for some of these costs through the budget cycle. I think just keeping an awareness to it in the budget cycle, and then if you do get a better way to phrase that question, I think we should look at it later. But right now, I think it's kind of open-ended. I'm not sure how it would be answered, to be honest.
Okay. You understand my goal is to create an awareness. It's awareness of the cost. Yeah.
Okay, we can call a question or we could defer this to a later time. Give it, what would you prefer?
we can defer at this point. If, unless there's,
I think we're going to need time one way or the other to
Yeah.
accumulate
Okay.
some data to really review this and see the success and
Yeah, and to understand the question.
to understand the question.
okay,
Because I don't know how far reaching it goes.
Okay, so-
What do you put in the budget operations? What do you attribute to bears versus the other things that are going on? I think it's going to be very difficult to answer
Yeah.
from that point of view.
sure.
And I'm not sure, we need to, I think we could talk about it and still have that same awareness without trying to define the number that you attribute to bears, to be honest.
Mr. Miller, do you see us being able to evaluate some of the costs and how it affects the budget down the road? Is that something?
Well, it's all part of the budget process. Can't be tough to do.
Okay, so this is something we can revisit.
Right.
Yeah, all right. Okay,
So are we deferring it?
we're deferring that, yes. Okay, we'll move to item number 13, correspondence, list of correspondence to March 16th. Motion following it, well, a motion that Councillor Broughton review these and highlight any correspondence. We have a motion for that.
I'll put it forward.
Second.
Do we need a motion or?
Okay,
Yeah.
accepted. Okay, good. Councillor Broughton, over
Accept
to
the
you.
information. Okay, perfect. Just looking at the correspondence, we have 4 pieces of general correspondence, but I just wanted to, I won't take a lot of time, but I want to just quickly highlight some of the points raised here. The first one was Patrick Wheeler, and it's a renter benefit deadline to renters. And the reason why I wanted to mention that is to my point that people are struggling and that there is a one-time benefit for renters because rents have skyrocketed along with other costs. So just an awareness there. Suggests that we receive the note about the Roberts Bank container. Certainly, and there's an environmental concern, which I'm sure residents want to be aware of. Patrick Wheeler also sent a letter supporting all diversity, which I think the village subscribes to, and also the Help Cities Lead. That letter, I think, councillors involved in the climate action will be certainly keeping us apprised of how we might need to rework our policies within the community. Moving on to the House on Community Forum, I've replied that I will be attending. I think it's April 21st. Mayor Barry is also invited to that forum if you're available. It is at Gibson's this time, so I will make sure that I attend, representing the village as the village representative there. Okay, moving over to the residents correspondence. 11 different letters, I believe. Actually 13 in total, but Bear Smart, one of the letters was, expressing a concern regarding the hardship of trying to get the garbage cans out at, right time for different people. And I know that there has been some real efforts made to meet community needs in terms of people who, need to both family members are leaving at 8 o'clock and the garbage cans aren't supposed to be out till 10 o'clock, that type of thing. So I think this will be a work in progress.
Do you want me to answer that one?
Possibly, yeah. If you'd like to, that would be great. Okay. Okay. 2 items to do with the Finance Committee with quite differing opinions. So I'm leaving those to, all of these are available on the website, so citizens can certainly read those. There is a letter from the building inspector. There are 2 letters identifying concern for behavior of council. There are 2 letters that I believe have been answered previously. One is regarding the land acknowledgement, which I believe I've just addressed. And the one regarding the CEO and asking who the CEO and deputy CEOs would be, and that announcement has been made. I pointed out to regarding the speculation tax. I think that's a very, very useful letter that you can pick up on from there. So anyway, I will respond to these letters. The letters from the last meeting I've responded to. I copied council, gave you about a day and a half, I believe, to respond if you had concerns, and have replied to various individuals, which I will do again this time around. I noticed that Ms. Dudley noted that her letter was missing, and that has been addressed by our CAO. So with that, I would just move to accept all these letters.
Can I have one comment? On the resident correspondence R9, Bruce McLaughlin on the Finance Committee. That was addressed directly to me in an email chain, and I have responded to it because it was addressed directly to me. I would like my response to be on the agenda package.
Okay, so that would be, you'd like that added to?
Yeah, I asked at the time. I asked at the time if this is going to be on the agenda package, that my response would be included. It hasn't been. I would like my response to that to be included.
Okay, so we would anticipate then that would be added and come to the next meeting? Is that, or just added to this package?
Well, I think you'd have to add it to the next package. No one's going to see it if it was added to this package.
That's right.
If I could just speak to that, there's no procedure at the moment for that, to even watch for that. So right now, the procedure is that the resident writes in, it gets put into the package, and if there's conversations going back and forth between the councillors and the person that's written the letter, that there's no provision.
So just
not sure at what point.
Okay, so maybe I could just speak to this. So the issue with this is the resident didn't send it for the agenda package, sent it just to me, and one copied others.
Yeah.
But he didn't forward it to agenda, didn't ask for it to be on agenda. Subsequently, he forwarded it to reception, which in the old days is how you got something on the agenda. Nowadays, you're supposed to forward to agenda, but I guess either is acceptable. Asking for it to be on the agenda package. So I didn't respond to it prematurely because it wasn't an item for Michael to see on the agenda. My request was either take it off or my response should stand. And that's all I'm asking.
So
because it didn't get taken off.
So here's the thing, when somebody writes in, and I think that I would encourage some looking at the communications procedures and bylaws, that I did look at that letter, and somewhere in the correspondence, it was given to council. And when anybody writes to council, it automatically through the email system gets forwarded to agenda. And agenda gets it picked up, and then it gets put on the agenda. The responses to that, because the owner of that email is the resident, the responses of that, they're not necessarily that. I can certainly add that, so it wasn't left off unintentionally, but it's a bit of a muddy, thing, because, and then if they wrote to reception and it was depending on where it was forwarded. There is a very good example of how it could possibly work through West Van, just look up their communications, and I've been looking at it quite a bit.
But to be clear, didn't Neville ask you to add his, if you're going to add this section of correspondence, that you should add his reply? Did he not ask?
I'll have to go back and see, and I mean, I
just saw it.
So it should have been added.
When did you send it? Your reply. I just saw it now.
I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd like it added to the
So we'll add it
next,
to
the next council meeting.
Okay.
Fine, we do that.
Will do.
Could I make a comment on something in the correspondence here? Michael, how are you going to answer R13. So this is from Rick Upanix,
Yes.
who's asking, in response to a letter sent to him by Ron, and he's asking council, I trust that Mayor Barry and all of councilors are on side and support this alternative solution until a new building inspector is hired. And the letter from Ron is effectively one that he can go ahead with an architect or an engineer to sign off on his projects. So I'm just wondering how you're going to answer that one.
Is that the Brunswick site?
No, that's the Calvin Grove.
Calvin Grove.
Yeah.
Calvin Grove.
Yeah. I think what this resident is asking is, sure, we've gotten an opinion here from the CAO, but he's asking for verification from council that they're in agreement with this. And that's a difficult one to answer. I mean, I'll say straight up right here again, that I don't support this for all the reasons that I mentioned before, and that I see this as a huge problem in terms of liability and effectiveness of process. There's also another email that
Didn't we put a legal opinion forward earlier in the meeting that speaks to that?
Address that.
well, there were some papers distributed, but
Yeah, that was a
I'm just
legal opinion that the CAOs received, and the CAOs reached out to these individuals.
Right,
So I
my question
think
is,
we have to
but the question
defer
from the
to our
resident-
legal staff.
Yeah, the question from the resident is to us specifically sitting here. Are we on side with and support this alternative solution until a new building inspector is hired? And I'm just wanting to point out that that was a question brought to council, and I think it's a very good question. And
We haven't answered it.
So I think we addressed that with the legal letter, and perhaps we need to share that with the public so that the public can see that as
Well,
well.
I think to Marcus's
So-
point, we haven't had the discussion. So how's Michael answered? Michael should answer it saying, it's come to council. I haven't got the opinion of council yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when we do deal with it, you can give him an answer.
Yeah.
So really, you can't do anything until what you're
No,
saying.
no, we're not saying that. Not saying that. The question the resident asked is, what is council's opinion of the direction I've been given?
Doesn't that mean everything is on hold then, from his perspective, from his point of view?
he's just asking a question.
I don't think anyone's said that council has to make the decision. Or unless you're suggesting that.
No.
No, that's fine. So council hasn't hasn't had a discussion, so we can't answer that. But we could later, once we've looked at the legal opinion. It's in front of us, actually I haven't read yet. Okay,
Maybe you can share that with the residents as well, the legal opinion.
I think we should probably have time to study it and then have a discussion about it, and then we can possibly engage in that.
Well, it's already as part of our material. I don't see any problem with sharing that.
Although I don't, I mean, council hasn't decided, I mean, it's kind of weird that if they're not going to support the CAO and what he's doing. Me as a homeowner, I certainly wouldn't go ahead. But just to say that council hasn't made a decision yet.
In terms of responding to the correspondence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So it's
Okay.
okay. We can take a look at and then discuss further at another meeting. Yeah.
Because I mean, he did say until a building inspector is appointed.
Sure.
We're trying to come up with solutions until that happens.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't unusual. This happens in other cities with strikes and all sorts of labor issues. So
It does, but they handle this differently by having certified professionals, right?
no, I think they lean on the homeowners the same as legal opinions suggest.
okay, we'll read it.
So, okay, let's move to item number 14, new business, 14A, Volunteer Appreciation Week.
Okay. I'll do that one, and that one is
Okay.
in the package, right at the end, as we suggested. Page 200.
223.
23.
So all of this is just, being the one guy from the previous council. One of the things that came to me that we haven't done yet this year is go out and call for Citizens of the Year, Citizens of Distinction, which we've normally done by this stage. And then on the last council, we held a volunteer appreciation day, which is a bit of a party event. It got got kiboshed by COVID. So there was a couple of years where we didn't have it, and then last year we had it again. And so that's just a bit of the background. Jamie Cunliffe was the councillor that used to take this on, and not around, and I didn't see anyone else putting up their hand. So I thought I'd reach out. I have, if we do decide to go have a party again, I do have 2 residents that have said they'd be interested in assisting. One of them has said she'd run the whole event, so I can team them up or work that out if that's how we choose to go. Typically, we do this on Volunteer Appreciation Week. There's really not little point in doing it any other time, which means it's on short notice. It's the 16th to the 22nd of April. So we don't have a lot of time to pick a Citizen of the Year in distinction, as well as organize a party. Those that didn't go last year was a beer, wine and pizza day down at the beach. It was good weather. It was well attended. There was an entertainer, an art musician, one man kind of band with his guitar, who was really good. It wasn't a cheap event. It was around the $2,500 to $3,000, if I remember correctly. I thought it was less, but Jamie told me she thought it was closer to $3,000. So not particularly cheap event as we spend money, which is frugally. Previous years, they've done all kinds of things. They've had smaller parties, they've had events. I think they had one in the school many years ago. In the hall, they've had events in people's houses. We've just given out gifts on occasions when people have got T-shirts and other forms of gifts. But we've always tried to do something. So I just thought I'd hear councillors' thoughts. And if we do decide to go to the party route, I kind of think I've probably got it largely lined up, if that's what we choose to do.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
I'm concerned about the date. It makes sense that it would be in Volunteer Appreciation Week, but it's going to be like 2 weeks ahead of an election, and whether that should be in there or not, I'm not sure. I'm not clear. So one of my thoughts would be to postpone it to a bit later and maybe a little better weather. I think last year it was pouring rain. But maybe not.
It wasn't quite pouring. I think it might have got a little. That couldn't be
the year before.
That couldn't have been pouring rain last year because that was outside of his guitar. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah, it was undercover anyway, a couple of years maybe back. Anyway, so I'm suggesting that perhaps it would be better a little bit later. Also, I'm just not completely convinced that a beer and wine event is what needs to occur, and not that. It makes it quite a costly event. And I don't know that Thursday night that it's necessary. I think you can have all sorts of other attractants, use the bear term. So those would be a couple of thoughts that I would have.
Councillor Reuter.
We also got a lot on our plate right now.
Yeah, I'm unclear. Are we looking to fund beer and wine here or?
That's what we did last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not driving for anything here. I'm just saying.
You're asking.
We haven't got on our radar. What are we going to do this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a couple asks: fund
seeking thoughts,
wine and beer, and whether we have it in the next few weeks,
or do something completely different.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
my feeling, just to add to it, I think with the by-election pending, I think this is a fabulous idea. I love this idea. I love the appreciation. I love putting forward Citizen of the Year. I think we've got a lot on our plate right now, and I would suggest that we schedule it for sometime after the by-election would be my feeling.
Okay, so we wouldn't do it in the national, provincial, I can't remember, Volunteer Appreciation Week then, which is unfortunate because it's
We can certainly
nationwide thing.
acknowledge volunteers during that week, but
The week we could acknowledge volunteers in the village update and say, due to the election, we're going to postpone and do it another time. Is that what we suggested?
sure.
I would suggest that. And I mean, you could combine it with another event or do it another time.
I'm just curious, wouldn't this be a really nice community building event that, I mean, it's one event that's what, in the second week of April? How, I'm just confused as to how this would impact or how the by-election would play into this. I mean, it's an event. People come and enjoy themselves and the community comes together. By-election or not, I mean, that's what, two weeks after this event likely? So how would that be an issue?
I think the last election, there was implications that some of the work that was going on might be, whether it was the beach park or this or that, promoting this, and I think it just opens up more questions and that's my feeling, is that we postpone it and give it its due course and really get behind it.
Yeah, but how would there be any, are you suggesting there's a perception of impropriety?
No, I'm just suggesting that we have a by-election and we focus on that and we attend this afterwards and we have, pay it its due course.
So just, I think I should qualify, just in case anyone's maybe misconstrued what I said. I did mention Jamie's name. I don't know if she intends to run in this election. She's not the person I'm referring to as organising the event. No, just to make sure, she's not the one I'm suggesting organise the event.
No,
all right, okay. Just in case that was fair enough.
Before the by-election, I think we'd have to run that through the CEO. There's some serious allegations about the last election about parties.
Private parties.
And I think this is just dangerous timing.
Well, this is a village event that we traditionally do.
Let's get, I think we should, I agree, we should get an opinion from a CEO.
But just having to ask for the opinion should tell you postpone it. Right, just having that discussion. The allegations could be huge. People could start lobbying and these sort of things.
So will you then ask the CEO?
If you want me to ask him, I will ask him, but just the idea of me asking the CEO implies we're questioning it.
Well, no, I think that's what they're there for. They're there to work out all these nuances of elections, how you spend money and how many signs you can have and all that. That's what they're there for.
I will ask him, but I just think it's very dangerous to do it before the by-election.
Well, I think what you'd have to mention in the question is that this is an event that's traditionally held. It's
in the volunteer appreciation. If it wasn't for the fact it was volunteer appreciation, we could be no-brainer. It's just that's the week you want to have it in.
Yeah.
And
Anyway. I should do. I have no problem asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough.
Can we make a point of that kind of?
Okay, item number 14B, insurance policy to be reviewed by Bruce McLaughlin. That's on the list. You had mentioned he had requested that.
Actually, he never requested it. It was, I brought it up to the finance committee that we're talking about budget items. Said to Bruce, have you ever looked at our insurance policy? And he said, no. There's a person with over 40 or 50 years of experience in
the insurance business.
In the insurance business. Why not just use that expertise?
Okay, he's signed to a non-disclosure. Do we need approval on this? Is that what?
I think it was just somebody brought up that she'll bring up to the council. That's all it is.
Okay, my feeling is the guy's got a ton of experience. He's actually dealt, according to his disclosure, with a couple cities that have gone through some insurance claims and lawsuits and things like that. And if he can protect the village, all the better. So I'm open to sharing our documents with him.
Do you want a resolution or?
I'm assuming we have more than one insurance policy.
Well, that's what we want him to look at. There's one very large one. Which,
MIABC.
Is it adequate?
I think there's 2 or 3. There's one on IT.
Well, those smaller ones, but yeah, no, they're getting.
Well, that
they're not that small anymore. You're right. It's privacy. It's
yeah.
So just to be clear here, we're asking Bruce to look into this and report to council.
If he has any comments on
it. Yeah.
He doesn't have to give us a report. I mean, it's.
Well, no, I think I think we should ask him for a report. But we're not asking Bruce to do this. His suggestion is the finance committee do this, right?
No. Bruce is part of the finance committee. It's
It came up in the finance committee. It wouldn't be part of the finance committee. It would be that we're asking a village expert to give some input.
Yeah, it would be
And
part of the finance
so if
committee. I mean,
Maybe he could join us in a closed or open meeting and
Mhm.
say his findings.
In a council meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless we wanted to refer it to the finance committee, we could do that as well.
Well, either way, it comes to the finance committee, it comes to the council.
Yeah.
It's.
If it's a concern, if it comes to
If
finance.
he has
committee,
recommendations or
concern of the council.
concerns, he'll highlight those.
Yeah,
It's not going to be something that sits with the finance committee and doesn't get shared with council.
I yes, council can do this. They can authorize him to do that. And bring a report to the committee, to the council. So it's unusual. I'm sort of sitting here wondering about this, right? It seems unusual, but okay.
You have a resident expert in that area. That's all I'm thinking.
And why are we thinking that there's a problem here to begin with and that it needs review?
Never thought there was.
we're not.
Never thought there was?
No.
No? Okay.
You just have a resident.
Due
expert,
diligence.
that's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to have a motion?
I'll move it if
Okay.
it's helpful.
Second?
And so just to be clear here, this would be a review of the village insurance policies that Bruce will bring to
On
council.
behalf of council.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
fine.
so I'm just gonna read this. That Bruce McLaughlin will review the current insurance policy, and report back to council on his findings.
Well, it's a little different. We have to ask him if he,
What-
he's
If you
willing
will.
to. Like,
Yeah.
depends how technical we make this.
Yeah,
This is, well, report to the council. He's not being paid. Does he want to take liability? It's just that somebody who's a resident expert and say, what do you think?
yes,
Like, it's
So-
very informal.
Provide his impressions.
So
I
maybe
don't
the resolution should be that Bruce McLaughlin is going to review the insurance policies of the village, if he is so inclined, or that council authorizes him to, and that he will report back to council on this matter. Is that what we're talking
I
about?
think that's good enough because he may come back and say, no, I'm not prepared to do that.
Sure, and that gives them the out.
Perfect.
All right, that sounds good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sure.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, establishing a parking committee. Now, I think we had had discussions on that and that came up in the finance committee. But just correct me if I'm wrong, but we did have
We had
a
the,
discussion on the parking and bylaw committee. And we hadn't landed on anything. I think we had
no,
either.
when we had the original committee reviews, committee of the whole thing that came to council, we decided who was doing what. We had a parking committee. And it was going to be chaired by Michael and Marcus from my memory. I'm
No, I think that was the highway committee.
That's the highway
Is it the
committee.
highway committee?
My notes say parking and bylaw consideration deferred.
Yeah,
So we didn't,
punted-
oh, that's right, we did.
We
punt that
punted
one.
it.
So,
I don't know why we.
but on that point, we do have an existing parking committee, in terms of reference already. Somewhere in the archives, because we've had one before.
How long ago was that and who was on it? Or is there any members still on it?
It's a few years ago.
Stretch.
Okay, do we want to dig up the terms of reference and,
Your council?
No, I think it was
The council before.
council before that.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was put on here because the finance committee asked about that, or it was one of the suggestions. Do we want to bring the terms of reference forward and revisit that?
Why don't we
Look
look
at
at
it
those
first.
terms of reference?
Some point, yeah.
And
I don't think, it's not a finance committee recommendation, right? So that's.
No, it's where it came up. Yeah. It's not a recommendation.
All right, so no action needed other than we'll look into the terms of reference and,
We'll review the
Now
terms of
action
reference.
To find the terms of reference for the
Review, yeah.
previous parking.
okay, and I think the next item, D, cost analysis, parking fines and benefits. That also related in somewhat,
I think that's good. No one's going to jump out at you guys as soon as you
or
start.
was that eliminated? Sorry, did we eliminate?
I think
We
struck it.
eliminated
We
that.
struck that, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we
Sorry,
struck it.
apologies. Items that we did add was the CFO report on the employee compensation.
For attending meetings for senior staff, right?
Yes, and I think Ron and Karen, you were either looking at that or considering it
And you've
or.
got that in new business, not, I've just moved it up
Into new business.
to,
I've got it on new
We
business.
had that one and whether the budget goes to council
Yeah.
or,
We put it on the unfinished
Yeah.
business log.
unfinished business.
Okay.
But we're putting but we both came up last time, so I put them on unfinished business.
Yeah.
sure.
Sorry, so we've covered those?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're at the public questions and comments. So what time do we have? Mike?
We
My
didn't-
phone is dying.
We didn't do an extension.
Didn't do an extension. Oh,
Uh-oh, the last 10 minutes doesn't count. You have to replay
Okay. We have a motion to extend here, we're.
so moved.
it to 10:30. Yeah.
10:30.
All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Sorry, my iPhone had died, so.
Jamie Cunliffe is first.
Okay. Jamie, if you'll unmute.
Good evening. Thank you for extended night here. I just want to speak to the volunteer appreciation. Specifically, sorry, I'm outside and there's the highway going by. I would think it would be an error to postpone volunteer appreciation. It is essential to our village, to our community. Traditionally, it's been held within this week. Weather depending, yes, Councillor Broughton, you are correct. The year before COVID, we were out in the rain and we did have rose-colored lenses hoping that it would subside. It was well attended. People were felt appreciated. And I think it is essential that we carry forward with it or whatever circumstance. I do not feel that this is coinciding with a bylaw or a by-election under any circumstance. The volunteers in our community do need to be appreciated. Coming out of a COVID environment, I really think is very important. And I would hope to see it carry forward between April 16th and 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Rebecca, let's go to Norma because Norma had
No.
to.
Norma, if you'll unmute, I think we had trouble last time with your connection.
Yeah.
Not muted.
Norma, one more time and then we'll try someone else and come back to you. We can't hear you again.
Oh, she's done. Okay, let's go to Rebecca.
Okay, Rebecca.
Hi. So a couple of points. First off, about the parking. So back in December, when I sent in an email to volunteer for the parking committee, the response that I got was that the parking plan had to be brought to council before a committee could be formed. And I believe that NI also indicated that they needed the parking report or plan or what have you. So I see that as a good next step rather than, if we're making decisions about, for example, changing ticket prices, the tickets that people receive or what have you, that we look at the whole parking report first before making those decisions. And I just wanted to reinstate again that I'm still willing to volunteer for that committee. And we are getting late because it is getting quite busy already on the streets up by the hiking trails. The second point that I wanted to make, I'm just wondering, I know with the previous council, when they posted the minutes, once they were approved, they post them as a separate link on the website. And I'm wondering if you guys could start doing that, just because it makes it a bit easier rather than having to hunt through minutes to find or agenda packages to find the minutes. So this is once they're approved, they posted them as a separate link. And finally, I just wanted to bring up employment equity again. I had mentioned that this previously at a council meeting, that I would hope that the council members, when you're doing staffing, that you have employment equity targets and you do take into account the employment equity groups that are not represented when you look at the table today. So just a comment. Thanks.
Can I just comment on the parking plan
Yes.
part? Okay, Rebecca, thanks for the parking plan reminder. Yes, it was me that said that to you in an email. And yeah, it does remind me. So just for everyone else's benefit. In the last couple of years, starting in the COVID years when the parking became a big issue, the plan would come back to council. So there was an original version and it came back in it would have been 2019, came back in 2020, came back in 2021, and we reviewed it as a separate document each time, and re-questioned how we parking meters, what we're going to do, and it evolved each time. So Rebecca's right when she asked about the parking committee. At the time, I hadn't forgotten what we were supposed to do, and I have since. That's what we need to do first. Someone needs to go find last year's parking plan, and we have to do version 3, I think it might be. Before we have a committee meeting.
Yeah, sorry. And if I could just add that it really gave opportunity for resident input as well. So that was an important piece of that report.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca.
And
Thank you.
I'll speak to the minutes. So you won't typically have to search through these minutes that they were reviewed tonight. They will get amended and then they'll get signed and then they'll get posted on the websites that you wouldn't have to go through the minutes to find them. So there's just a few more steps that they have to go through before they get posted onto the website.
Karen, if you can just do a check, because there's been a few comments and I think Norma was one of them.
There's some missing and I have a list.
You have a list?
You have a
Okay.
list to go back
Okay.
to October. That there's some missing.
Okay.
Well, Norma was talking. She was there. Norma, try again.
Norma, we're going to give you a third chance, third time lucky.
She turned
No,
on.
I
okay.
saw her
I
face.
saw her too. Should we just wait?
All right, that brings our meeting to a close. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm stalling 5 minutes or 5 seconds in case Norma
seconds for
manages
Norma.
to do it.
It's coming back in. She came on when she wasn't expecting to a while ago.
All right, motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn, second,
Yes.
all in favor?
Yes.
On
Aye,
17.
motion carried.
And so-
Okay. Thank you to everyone and rest of spring break.